Hello, everyone, and welcome to Reap the Spoils. Ooh. I'm Mark Sullivan.
I totally forgot. I'm
We
Delilah
didn't.
Lugo.
We.
It's after Halloween, that's why I got thrown off.
To be fair, folks, it's only 4 days after Halloween.
Did you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I did.
No, I'm talking about Jason.
Oh.
I don't need an introduction. The show introduces me.
The man that needs no introduction. Jason Kwasnicki.
I don't need an introduction. The show introduces me.
Yeah, we are recording this after Halloween, but it is a horror game, so it's a spooky episode. And
Yeah.
Delilah somehow forgot less than a month after we recorded the last one, I guess, right?
Yeah.
I'm
in the Christmas spirit. Leave me alone.
Yeah, man. As much as I love Thanksgiving, I'm down to just make all these months just Christmas months. Christmas is the best.
Reap the Spoils is a semi-monthly spoiler cast where we typically play a video game and we come here and we spoil it. We talk about it. We break down the story, talk about how we felt about the game, its contents, its gameplay, it's whatever. If it's in the game, we're probably going to talk about it. So, if you have not played the game we're going to be talking about today, I suggest that you pause this episode, go play that game, and then come listen to us spoil it. Delilah, what is the game we're talking about today?
Silent Hill F.
F. Interesting. Silent Hill F. That's not a number. That's a letter.
Yeah.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Yeah, we're going to be talking about Silent Hill F, the brand new entry to the storied and somewhat troubled survival horror franchise from Konami. So, if you've not played Silent Hill F, I suggest pausing, going and playing that game, and then playing it again, and then probably playing it at least one more time, and then coming back to this show, press play, and listen to us spoil it. You guys ready for a brief info block on Silent Hill F?
Yes, sir.
When are we not?
When are we not? Well, we're not ready until Delilah gives me permission, as we learned in the Silent Hill 2 episode.
Yes, sir.
You gave me permission. I was just answering Jason's query. But anyway. Silent Hill F is developed by a developer called Neobards, which I believe is a South Korean developer, or maybe Taiwanese.
Isn't it Chinese?
I should probably know this before.
I'm pretty sure it's Chinese.
No, it's not Chinese. It's definitely like Taiwanese or they are Taiwanese, not Korean or Chinese. Anyway, Neobards Entertainment. They are the developer of Silent Hill F. Obviously, the game is published by Konami because they own the IP, they own the franchise. Interesting bit for the staff behind this game is that it was written by Ryukishio7. That's a weird name. Well, that's because that's the screen name for the writer. And that's the name, the what's the word I'm looking for? Moniker he goes with. He is the writer and
pen name.
Pen name. Thank you. That's a good way of putting it. He is the creator and writer for very popular horror visual novels, Higurashi When They Cry, and I believe the sequel to that, which is not the name that I remember. He's a very well-known horror visual novel writer, and he's the writer for this game. And the other notable thing for me at least is the music. Kensuke Inage was one of the composers, and of course returning composer Akira Yamaoka, who is a phenomenal composer, composed most of, if not all of, these previous Silent Hill soundtracks. And is like one of my favorite composers of all time. He's great, and you can really tell which tracks he worked on versus the tracks that Kensuke Inage worked on. Not a shot at Kensuke Inage, it's just like Yamaoka has a very specific style, and you can very clearly hear it come through in this game with one of his tracks. This game was announced in October 2022. which was the month we got a big Silent Hill broadcast presentation thing that announced several Silent Hill projects, including the Silent Hill 2 remake, which we covered in our previous episode. Go listen to that if you haven't listened to it yet and played Silent Hill 2. And another Silent Hill game that has yet to come out or even see more of. I forget what that one's called. I think
know
Town.
they announced like the short message, which was like some free thing that I heard wasn't very good.
Yeah,
And one
Townfall,
that's
I think was the other one. Yeah. So yeah, and then also included in that was Silent Hill F, which is what we're talking about today. This game was released on September 25th, 2025 for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and Windows PC. And yeah, this is your final spoiler warning. If you have not played Silent Hill F, go play it and then listen to this episode where we spoil the whole game. Okay. So, you guys ready to dig into this game?
Uh-huh.
So, I guess full disclosure for the listeners, I'm the only person that played through it multiple times. I know I said at the top, like, hey, go play it, and then play it again, then play it again. And for the record, I do think you need to do that. I do think you get the most out of this game if you do that. But as you two will attest, that's a very tall order to ask of somebody.
I feel, I do feel to an extent bad talking about the game critically, not having technically done all the playthroughs, but at the same time, I guess just to preface all my feelings on this game, by the end of the first playthrough, I wish I had had a physical copy so that I could, who was it, PewDiePie that burned his disc of Last of Us 2? Who was it?
Oh God, I don't know.
I wish I could have burned a physical copy of the disc of this game rather than just delete it immediately as I did.
All right,
when I finished it.
Oh my God.
So I guess let's start off with the elephant in the room. Did you guys really hate this game that much?
I didn't hate this game. There's a lot to like about this game, but it ended with a really sour taste in my mouth that I felt completely unmotivated to give it another playthrough for many reasons that we'll get into. One of them being the first ending.
And I think, like, in a way that is a testament to like the game, right? Like that is almost like very telling in it of itself of your critical thoughts of it. That first ending, which is the only ending you can get on a first playthrough, left that sour taste, right?
Well, I would add to that I dreaded actually playing the game.
Yeah, that too.
So, yeah. And there's a lot more playing of this game than there is story, in opposition to like, other Silent Hill games.
I don't know about that, but I get what you're saying. I do. But go ahead, Delilah. What did you...
Look, when it comes to a horror game, I'm no stranger to replaying a horror game. And I, in fact, enjoy second playthroughs.
I mean,
when you're asking me to play...
Resident Evil.
Yeah, Resident Evil 2. Yeah.
But when you're asking me to play 3+ times just to understand the story, for a game that has really bad gameplay, combat specifically, I really can't get down with that. And also... I've done it before in games, and I'll be able to like reload saves, to get a different ending. Whereas this game, it feels like you gotta actually go through the playthroughs and see the different cutscenes and stuff. And I just don't like that. I wouldn't have minded one more time. Had it been one more time, I totally would have done a second playthrough. But to ask me to play this game more than 3 times, like, bro, I'm 38. Leave me the fuck alone. I can't do this shit anymore. If I was 15, no doubt I would have had all the time in the world to play this really bad game with really bad combat. But
and on top of that, this is no Nier Automata. Like, you're not getting some like existential, deep storytelling here.
We'll talk about that because I messaged you guys on Slack about the kind of the Nier comparison, not even just Nier Automata, the Nier comparison, and we'll talk about that when we get to structure. But yeah, I definitely I definitely feel like I was a bit higher on this game than you. I mean, it definitely sounds like I was higher on this game than you guys were, and even that is like overstating it. Like, I didn't love this game, and I still have a lot of issues with it, but I definitely didn't think it wasn't the worst thing I've played. That was Silent Hill 2. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Um
as the resident Silent Hill guy on this crew, I've been interested to hear what your takes are going to be simply
well,
Yeah,
because
same.
I've been listening to Silent Hill dedicated content creators online and listening to like different point of views and the discourse about this game relative to the state of Silent Hill before this game came out as a series. It's been extremely interested, so I'm very interested to hear your takes on it.
it has been interesting, and it's been very strange. I will, like, again, this that maybe that's a conversation we
Yeah,
should
that's more like
hold.
for the end of the
Yeah,
conversation.
I would, and I do want to dig into that. But okay, I guess let's start digging into these endings. And I think talking about the endings, because there's four of them we need to talk about, I think that's going to start opening us up to talk about the to talking about the characters and the greater story and the things that happen in the game. And I guess a good way to start this off is that Jason, and in our Slack, and one of the things that you said was that this game didn't have any plot. And I told you, like, no, it does. And after you started watching the other endings, 'cause, I knew you guys weren't, like, once Delilah said that she wasn't gonna do multiple playthroughs, I was like, okay, well, there's no way Jason is then. So here we go.
And I'm a big fan
Um,
of Nier. I'm not opposed to that style of
yeah,
storytelling. Yeah,
right. And again, we'll get to that with the structure. But like, you told me that this game doesn't have a plot, and I said no, it does have a plot. And I think 5 minutes later, as you started watching the other endings, you replied to me and said, "Oh, I see what you mean now." It's like, yeah, you see what I mean now. This game does have a plot. It's just that it really doesn't convey what's really going on until at least the second playthrough. And even then, it's not it's pretty obtuse about it. It's not really clear. So I guess let's go with that first impression, that first sour taste left in Delilah's mouth. Let's go with ending one, where yeah, Hinako defeats her fox self, and then she starts overdosing on red capsules, and you start seeing a ton of red capsules. And at the very end, like, you find out that she's in her 20s, and at her wedding murdered several people and was on the run.
Yeah.
And you didn't really get any modicum of information surrounding that really throughout the first plot. Maybe bits and pieces here and there in
yeah.
notes, but it's not like you can really infer that they have anything to
Let
do
me
with Hinako
let me just
necessarily.
clarify what I meant when I said this just based on the first playthrough had no plot. The game opens with you hear yelling, the father yelling at Hinako and the mother, you know, defending but also trying to get Hinako to follow whatever. She runs out of her house because obviously there's, to say the least, a stressed relationship. And then she runs down to the village, sees her friends, and then outbreak happens. When I say that there's no, and then from there it's just things happen, monsters appear, and you wake up in a world that's not the that isn't the town. It's this alternate, demon realm or whatever, or spiritual realm. And then you go back and forth, back and forth. You learn some things along the way about the characters and their relationship, but there's no plot goal in comparison to, without spoiling, Silent Hill 2 opens. You know that the main character has a letter from his wife who is deceased, and he's going to Silent Hill with the prospect of somehow finding his deceased. Well, even if she's deceased, he's got this letter. He's got a goal. He wants to
Getting
find her.
answers, at the
Yeah.
very least, getting
So there
answers.
is there is a plot objective which does not exist at the beginning of this game, which begins in media res. So you already are thrown into it without being given the background info, and it's just okay. Run down the town to you see your friends. Oh my god! And things are happening, and they just keep happening until the end.
I mean, the goal does become to get out of Ebisugaoka, but it's kind of an evolving goal, you know? It's kind of an evolving objective. It's not like the objective right from the start.
And
Um,
like you said, the ending revelation of the pills and none of this was really real, and she's actually 20 years old
well,
getting married. Well,
yeah,
yeah, you know what I mean.
yeah. Hmm.
And that she, was actually getting in an arranged marriage, but before she can get married, committed the murder, killed all those people because she was driven crazy by the pills. You do get hints of that, just not in any of the actual story cutscenes. You gotta read lots of
Which
letters
like
and journal entries.
here's the thing is I'm not necessarily opposed to that kind of storytelling, right? Like I don't think that kind of storytelling is net bad or necessarily bad. Like it's just the fact that you you kind of are left with more questions than answers at the end, and not in like the good or satisfying way, right?
Right.
It's it's very back heavy in terms of revelations and events and things happening, and then it's more intrigue after 15 hours of intrigue. And the ask of the game then is to just, well, if you want more, play it again.
Yeah, it's padding.
And really that's the big problem I have with, and I guess we could talk a little bit about structure here, or maybe we can just get fully into structure, is the fact that you are asked to play the game again. And I'll tell you guys right now, like, they do the bare minimum to expedite that replay.
Ugh.
Like the bare minimum. After the because you kind of have 6 stretches of both being in Ebisu Gaoka and um the other world, we can call it the shrine, the dark shrine.
Mhm.
However you want to call it, other world or dark shrine, you know. You spend like you go back and forth between those areas 6 times, 6 times each for each one. The first two in the dark shrine are exactly the same, with minor differences depending on your puzzle difficulty. Like on a replay you can change your puzzle difficulty, and the puzzles are completely like, it's the same puzzle, but like the clue is completely different, and they do feel somewhat fresh in terms of solution, right? Like that's like the classic Silent Hill way. That's a good thing in my opinion. Um, but those two sections are completely the same, and then starting from the third one where you have to do like the whole sacrifice of your friends thing, they just give you all of Hinako's fox powers. So you have the arm and the focus ability and all that stuff from the third one on in the shrine, which is like kind of helpful in expediting that section, but you still have to do that section and every other section fully after that, and those are long sections. Like the only one that is pretty breezy having those powers right from the get-go is the section where you actually get those powers, because you don't have to go to the several spokes to like get her arm, get her face, get her the brand on her back and stuff. You could just breeze right through it and just go to the end.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they really don't do anything to expedite the playthrough. You are playing the exact same game and the entire game again.
Yeah, it's not like
And
Nier where you might be playing almost an entirely different game on one
well,
Yeah,
playthrough
like
either.
it's
with
not
different
even
characters.
the way I put this to you guys, and I don't want to spoil too much of Nier Replicant and Nier Automata, because obviously those are two of my favorite games of all time, and if you haven't played them, go play them, please.
And then go listen to our episodes on them.
They take the multiple playthrough formula and they do a lot of amazing things with it. And I the way I put this to you guys was like, this game had all of the weaknesses and none of the strengths of that replay formula that both Nier games had. Because like Nier Replicant, in order to get the full picture, you have to replay the game at least 3 times. But the after you finish the game the first time, you're only replaying the last half of it. If not even half. It's really like the last 40% of that game. That's all you're replaying when you do a replay of Nier Replicant to get the other endings.
And
So,
the way that they do those endings too, you could almost like you obviously want to keep playing, do more replays to get more of the story, but weirdly some of those both of those first playthroughs I think can sit on their own if you really didn't want to go through and do it, play more. It's strange. It's hard to explain without actually, going
There's
into it. But
I don't know about that. Like I feel like you really do need. I mean, yeah, that second run of Near Replicant brings in a lot of new cutscenes and revelations and information that wasn't there in your first run. And then the third run is very much the same, but it's the ending itself. If anything, your third run of Near Replicant is what wastes the most of your time. And the fourth run, if you want ending C on your save file.
I guess what I'm getting at is that, to Delilah's points of being so fucking disappointed here with this first ending of the first playthrough, you don't get that massive disappointment at the end of
yeah, no,
the
I
playthrough. Yeah,
definitely see what you guys are saying. Like you end this game on a first run and you don't really have many answers. There's you're not going to sit there and be like, "Oh, that told a satisfying story." No, you're going to sit there and be like, "What the fuck just happened? Oh, I have to replay the entire game to find out?" That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
and
At the
even
end,
then, yeah. Go ahead, Delilah.
no, I was just gonna say it's also you don't get that other cutscene to find out what she did at the wedding until after the credits. So
Yeah.
the first ending was very abrupt. You open a door and the game essentially ends, and it's like what? And then you roll credits,
Yeah,
and I was just like, come on, are
I
you
mean,
kidding me? And then you get that ending cutscene, which puts a little bit more context to it, but even then, it wasn't enough for me to feel satisfied. And like at least with Silent Hill 2, there's a conclusive revelation of what's happening, and then you get alternate endings. Whereas here, there was, I mean, I guess like it is sort of conclusive in terms of how she reacted to having an arranged marriage, but the way they executed it just felt like I don't know, I just felt really empty at the end. And just a quick like comparison to the Nier games without spoiling them is like Jason said, I actually felt satisfied after one single playthrough, and Nier
yeah.
actually has fun combat, better combat,
yeah.
especially Nier
Platinum
Automata,
games, yeah.
in my opinion. And even those games, I think I mentioned in the podcast when we talked about them, I just don't like replaying, and the repetition like really gets to me. But then when you get that outcome, it's so extremely satisfying because it has such a philosophical edge to it. And this game, it just like I'm actually glad that I didn't play it after hearing Mark's description that it doesn't do anything different, and it doesn't do anything to kind of like make those other playthroughs worth it, except for understanding context to the story. And that really doesn't sit well with me because even when I replay a Resident Evil game, I'm playing with like a rocket launcher. They find a way to make the gameplay different or fun, even though I'm playing as the same character and doing the same puzzles. In the Nier games, you play as different characters, or you have like only certain segments that you get to play, or they completely change certain gameplay segments. So there's so much more different that they could have done to like kind of make me feel like, oh yeah, you know what? Actually, I really should do a second or third playthrough. And this one, it left a sour taste in my mouth. It was not satisfying at the end, and the combat was so god awful that I was just like, you know what? I don't think I want to do this. And
Well,
and just one other thing is that this game more leaned into body horror, and body horror is actually my least favorite genre of horror.
oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, like I mean, I don't get me wrong, I've watched Hellraiser, like I could get down with some Terrifier, you know what I mean? But there was something about the way they did the body horror in this game that actually made me uncomfortable, which I guess to say that's actually effective, right? I'm supposed to be uncomfortable, but it's just not something that I want to keep playing. It's like I'll watch Terrifier 3 once and then I don't need to watch it again, you know? Like I get it and I enjoyed the body horror in the moments, but I don't want to keep watching that. And for a game, I don't want to keep seeing the body horror. Like I see it once, I'm like, ugh, and then I want to move on, you know?
Man, I
Yeah.
didn't know you didn't like body horror. A quick aside, my local theater that my wife and I are members at just had a 35 millimeter screening of David Cronenberg's The Fly
Mm.
that we went to
I love The
see.
Fly,
It,
actually.
it was incredible. That was such a phenomenal movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, just a quick anecdote. Yeah, it's I didn't even think about this while I was doing all these runs, but I guess there technically is an unlockable after your first playthrough but it's not the same as like when you do a replay of Silent Hill 2. You go through like the opening run to into the town, and on the way you can find a chainsaw, and like that is an unlockable like new weapon that they are rewarding you with for beating the game and doing a second playthrough. And this game doesn't really have that, at least not in a fun sense.
Right.
So
Not to
we
mention that, like, even on a first playthrough, there's so little variation in the environments and not to mention the enemies. Like, there's only, less than a handful of enemies that you're fighting, and every environment, like, every time you're in the spirit realm, all of the arenas, all of the corridors all look the same. All of the houses look the same when you're in the quote unquote real world and you're in the village going through. There's so little variation even in a first playthrough. I can only imagine how fucking repetitive it gets on multiple playthroughs.
Yeah, this is like stiff bonk simulator. No matter, I mean, we'll get into that into gameplay, but basically, no matter what weapon you had, and I hear you get like a cool sword if you keep playing.
and
I didn't
that's
see gameplay, but it doesn't change exactly how the bonking melee style that this game has. You still bonk with a sword. It doesn't like even when you
Yeah.
get like the arm, it doesn't turn. I don't feel like as powerful as I should feel. Like I get it, it's a high school girl. She probably isn't very strong. She could probably only bonk. She probably isn't. It doesn't have like samurai skills with a katana or whatever. But I just feel like when she got that arm, that was an opportunity to go maybe a little bit more like hack and slashy.
again, these are all things I want to talk about when we get to
Sorry,
that
yeah,
gameplay
I
section.
feel
No,
like
it's
I'm
okay.
jumping ahead. Go ahead.
It's okay. It's okay. And yes, like the sword is one I'm talking about. It's what I'm referring to. Is like
Mhm.
technically on a second run, you there's a new quest that opens up, and like you see it hinted in the first playthrough when you go to the divine tree, and or any notes that you might find regarding the divine tree is that there is a sword beneath the tree, and on a on a second run you unlock a quest to actually retrieve that sword. And it is tied to getting all of the other endings. You need to complete the quest to get that sword, and then in some cases for certain endings, you also need to do another puzzle in the other world in the shrine to create the, I don't know, divine liquid or divine water, whatever. I don't remember what they refer to it as, but it will purify the sword because the sword is like possessed of a dark energy. Um, so that is all only accessible in a second run, and it is tied to getting the other endings. So I say it's not like a fun thing because getting a chainsaw in a second run of Silent Hill 2 only serves to give James a fucking chainsaw. You don't need the chainsaw to suddenly break into room 312 at the end of the game to get a new ending or something, you
True.
know?
That's a
You
good
just
way of
you,
describing it
you
for
just get a
sure.
chainsaw to have fun with a chainsaw, man.
Yeah.
Um, and like I don't want to compare this game too much to Silent Hill 2, because like fundamentally Silent Hill 2's endings are not like, they're not continuous. You're not having to replay Silent Hill 2 to learn more about the story, to learn more about what's really going on. You get an ending in Silent Hill 2 because it's the ending of your James's playthrough. And by your James's playthrough, I do mean like you, the player. Like we talked about this in that episode where certain choices you make, and I don't mean like, pick the first choice, pick the second choice. I mean like choosing when to heal yourself, choosing who to interact with, choosing how much time you spend doing certain things or whatever. Like those are the things that are going to infer in Silent Hill 2 which ending you get. And it is a full conclusion to your story. This is not that. This is, you have to replay this game at least 3 times to get a proper and full conclusion to Hinako's story and what is going on.
And
Yeah.
even
That
then,
all,
it doesn't add, we'll get into it, but it doesn't add a whole lot. And I can see it being super dissatisfying to put in all that work.
I mean, I think it was dissatisfying in the moment, and then the more I read about it, the more I kind of understood more about what this game was going for. The problem is that it wasn't really at the forefront of the game's priorities in terms of conveying that information. At least I didn't feel it was, right? So,
Yeah, I would be curious to know, like, statistically, like maybe looking at trophies or achievements, who actually did the work, like Mark, and got all the endings, and if people are actually getting what they want out of this game. Because like, unlike you guys, I don't really look at like videos until after I talk to you guys, because I just like sometimes I feel like watching videos will like change my perspective, and I don't really want to change my perspective until like I talk about it with you guys. Like your perspectives are more important to me than like
Come in with a
some random
pure
Joe's.
voice,
Yeah.
unspoiled, unbiased by the
Yeah.
masses.
Exactly.
I mean,
Um
I never
yeah.
really look at other criticism or critical analysis of things. I just start looking into, okay, what was this, right? What does
Mhm.
this mean? Why I didn't really understand this. Let me look it up so that we can come to this show and come to this episode, and I can hopefully offer some closure or some clear answers to some of these things, right? And I think
Yeah.
there's a really big one that we'll talk about toward the end, or
Yeah.
at the very least after we cover the endings. Um, but yeah, it is interesting that we all have kind of different approaches to how
Yeah.
we, how we handle. Oh, we beat this game. What do we do now? I guess to answer your question real quick, Delilah. I mean, this is somewhat skewed, so take this with a grain of salt. But on PSN profiles, among users on PSN profiles, the platinum has a the platinum trophy, uh, has a 17.69% achieval rate. Um, and I think if you hover over, that gives you the full PlayStation Network number. It's at a 2.8%.
Oh,
So,
wow.
I mean, platinum trophies tend to be like, especially across PSN, like pretty low. Your usual player base is not going to go for all the trophies. So I think the fact that PSN, as far as PSN profiles is concerned, it's at 17.69%. Like it's got a
17's
pretty
pretty high.
high, yeah, it's
Yeah.
got a pretty high rate. And this platinum's not hard. It's just time consuming. Like this,
Right.
it was a
Yeah.
very time consuming platinum to go for. At least I used to do 100-hour platinum trophies like it was nothing, and then
I
this one
know.
took me like 50, and I'm like, I want to die. Please let me move on to something else, for the love of God.
Yeah.
Um, Remember that time where I played all three versions of Shadow of the Colossus, and
Oh my
I played through
gosh.
it like 15 times, and now I don't want to play that game again for like a decade?
Yeah, that's
Those days are
dedication.
over, man.
Oh yeah, long gone. At
Yeah.
least that game's top tier though.
Oh yeah. I just don't want to play it for a very long
You
time.
need to purge.
Anyway, let's go on to the second and the second and third ending. These are the endings that you can get on a second playthrough. The second ending is Fox's, it's called Fox's wedding. That's where the Fox Hinako, she goes through with the wedding to Fox Mask, who I think you just kind of unceremoniously find out is Kotoyuki, the boy that she rescued as a
Hmm.
child. I don't really think that was ever a
It's
in your
in
face revelation.
it's in the journals and it's in notes. It's
Right, which
heavily
like
stipulated.
again is
This goes back
fine.
to I don't think it's fine. So
Okay.
if you've watched the show for any amount of time, you know that there's a Kwasnicki stamp of approval when it comes to
No, no, no.
notes and
It's called the Jason test, buddy. It's
the
called the
Jason test.
Jason test.
This game absolutely fails because in theory, you should be able to tell a story through the game, and that notes, journals, side materials should flesh out and expand, not be crutches that you need in order to understand. In this game, the journal, and I think it's because the writer comes from a different format. He very much relies on the journal in particular as a crutch to tell this story, um, because he's not used to this kind of visual medium storytelling. He's used to having all that space on the manga for dialogue and a slower paced visual storytelling,
I,
with
I
a lot more writing.
I personally don't mind like some like elaboration done through journaling, but I feel like certain revelations could have been much better executed, like the fact that Kotayuki is Fox Max. I think that could have been much cooler to see as a cutscene, especially because of how lackluster the first ending is. That could have probably added to it to the ending feeling a little bit more better and more
Or
conclusive
or just clever visual storytelling, like when you see that kind of vision of her
at
Hinako
the park.
saving at the park, have him wearing a fox mask. You don't need to be explicit. Like Silent
Hmm.
Hill 2 trusted its audience, which is one of the things I loved about it. Um,
Yeah.
I
this
mean,
does not. It just writes like, you can just straight up read what's going to happen. Like even the twist of with the pills. It's straight up. You just pick up a paper and it tells you before. It's very easy to see coming.
I
Yeah,
think
and
with
sorry, go ahead.
no, I think with Kotayuki, I don't remember the note that kind of gives it away that Fox Mask is
I
Kotayuki,
believe it's
and
in the house that opens up on the second playthrough,
the house that opens up on the
like
second playthrough.
the one that's like right next door to your house. That's
Oh,
locked on the first playthrough. You can't get
no,
in it at all.
that one just gives you
Or maybe it's in the
that
Shrine World. I don't. Yeah.
that one's what sets up the sword quest. You go in
Yeah, yeah,
there
yeah. No,
and
no,
it
no.
gives you
It's.
the first
I
clue
think
that you
I'm
need for
mistaken.
that.
I think it's in the Shrine World
I mean,
because it starts. Those notes start setting up kind of the parallels of Kotayuki being a disappointment in the same way that Hinako feels she's a disappointment. That whole thematic, or at least attempt at a
well,
thematic
it's not
through
so much
line.
that okay. So what I'm trying to get at least is that I don't remember which note gives it away the Fox Mask is Kotoyuki, in that I don't remember if it's a mandatory note. And if it is a mandatory note, then you could view that as an acceptable, like, this is how you find out that revelation, because
I
everyone
would
is
still
going to
say
have
it's
to pick
lazy,
that.
but I
I
get
mean,
what you're saying.
it's
Yeah,
not it's not a great way of conveying it, but at least it's something that everyone is forced to pick up and should be forced to infer from the
yeah.
information. If it's an
It's
if it's
better than being optional. Yeah,
but if it well being optional is completely unacceptable, because it's such a big piece of information. If you miss the note that tells you who he is, and then you get to the cutscene where she refers to him by name, when did she make that revelation? Ooh, who knows? There need to be something that, like, that shows, like, that Hinako knowing who this guy is. And if it's in a note, like, that's not great, it's not ideal, but at least it's something that she could pick up and be like, oh my god, Foxmass is Kotoyuki.
Hmm.
Okay. Or not even she, because she actually knows that, right? Like, now we're getting to the real headiness of this game's story. It's for the player to know that he is that who he is. I guess that's kind of what the game is trying to go for, is that Hinako knows who he is, but we don't,
Right.
because why would we? We're not even introduced to Kotoyuki until the very end of the first playthrough, when she gets that flashback on the playground, and
Hmm.
we're left to be like, she even Yanako is like, I don't even remember that, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know what that was. Okay, anyway.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a shame because I really like the style of the journal, like they like added to the entries of the characters and stuff like that, and they like put like a red circle around the paragraphs and everything. I thought stylistically it was an intriguing way to like go through it, but I agree ultimately while I did enjoy reading most of the notes, I feel like the story overall could have ended better in the first playthrough.
Let's get on to these endings. We
Yeah.
gotta start going into them. So yeah, Hinako goes through with the wedding to Kotoyuki, to which, Shu kind of, her partner, kind of breaks into and intervenes with the wedding, and you wind up having to fight a Shu that is possessed by the oh geez, this is a very Japanese word. Give me one moment. Shu is possessed by the Tsu- Tsukumogami, and you wind up having to fight him in that form. Which again, I think is just, we'll kind of talk about why and what is kind of going on, because it's not entirely clear by this point. But you beat Shu as the Tsukumogami, and Hinako asks, please just respect this and try to be friends with Kotoyuki, to which Shu is like, all right, fine, let's be buds. And Hinako winds up living an unhappy life in an unhappy marriage that she didn't want to begin with.
Yeah.
This second playthrough is obviously where you really start to learn about like what's really happening. Oh, and by the way, the requirements, I don't know if you guys know this, the requirements to get these additional endings. From after the first one, every ending on, you cannot take red capsules.
No
You cannot use them.
pills.
You need to completely abstain from pills.
Do they still line up like 1,000 pills towards the end of the game? Like they didn't.
You will still find. Well, no. So up until you get to Shu's house, like you cannot take any of them. You cannot,
Mhm.
or you can pick them up, but you can't use them.
Right.
And once you get to Shu's house and you pick up the note in like his shed to find the key to his house, and you find out like why Shu recommended these in the first place, and it was because they were going to help her with her tension headaches that she has, but also like you kind of find these notes that I think they're like clinical trials or something, and it's Shu
Yes.
trying them himself. And like he knows that she's just under a lot of stress about this decision to marry Kotoyuki, and he gives them to her kind of to free her mind and kind of find herself a little bit. And there's more that isn't really said that we'll talk about in a later segment, because I really want to talk about that. We'll get to it. But yeah, anyway, up until Shu's house, you'll see red capsules. You can pick them up. You cannot use them. And then after Shu's house, assuming that you haven't taken any up to that point, they completely disappear and you never see them
Cool.
again.
Got it.
So you
Makes
won't
sense.
see them like how the first ending basically like
They're
really
everywhere at the
yeah.
end.
And
You got my
I kind of liked that.
pills.
I kind of thought that was kind of surreal. Like you really get the idea from that imagery that she has an addiction, right?
Mhm.
And I think that the fact that you don't take them up to that point, and then she reads the note from Shu and kind of comes to this acceptance that she is going to do this without a reliance on them, removing them outright from the game, I think is great. I think that's really, really that was a really good change
Yeah.
on a second run, But
The
anyway,
moral of the story: don't take too much Tylenol. It's bad for your stomach.
oh my god, yeah.
Oh boy. Um
I'm
so
not gonna get into the topical discussion surrounding that one.
I don't even know what you're
Ugh.
talking about, man. Tylenol is just an NSAID, and it's bad for your stomach.
That's my own living Silent Hill.
yeah.
I don't know what
Anyway,
I
you guys are thinking about.
I watched this ending and I thought that this was a much better ending. It was probably my favorite ending, actually, because it was
really?
so dark.
Yeah.
I think this was like the baddest ending, and I think that's why I liked it. So for the one reason is because I thought Chu's boss design looked so cool,
Yeah.
very like grotesque looking. Also, he was kind of like a Oni mech for the doll that you see
Yeah.
throughout the game, which was kind of cool. Unfortunately, the gameplay still sucks, but I won't keep beating that over the head. Um, uh, and I think a lot of these other endings had cool boss designs as well, which we'll get into. But what I liked about this
Yeah,
ending
the
is
boss designs are definitely a thumbs up.
The
If I'm
enemy
very
trying to
cool.
designs
give,
in general, I think, are
True,
yeah,
phenomenal.
true. But why I like this ending is because seeing that very this is the ending where you see her like skin cut off her face, right? And she's just like in despair, like I don't want to end up like my mom. After she
I
succumbs to the marriage.
I can't. It might be. I can't fully remember which
I
ones
think
you see
this
that.
is it because it's Fox wedding, right? And so that's the ending where she actually goes through with the arranged marriage, and then Shu tries to stop it, but she winds up staying with Kotayuki and doesn't listen to Shu, and then she realizes that she's gonna wind up being just like her mom in a
Yeah.
controlled situation that yeah, she has no like autonomy over.
And
oh my
that's almost
God, do you
why
get
I
it? She doesn't like the arranged marriage. Did you get it? Did you get the message?
No, I didn't get it.
That's what it's just, this
That's what I was
game
trying to
lacks
say.
all subtlety, all the subtlety that I loved about Silent Hill 2. And go watch our previous episode about Silent Hill 2. But all that subtlety that made me understand why you love this series so much just was not present here.
Well, let me be clear. I love the first 3 games of this series.
Right.
That's why I opened this, talking about Silent Hill as a very storied and troubled franchise.
True.
But anyway, I almost don't like this ending because I don't feel it really makes sense for Hinako to decide that she's going to go through with the wedding. She's so adamantly against it in her core character that relenting and deciding that, yeah, I'll go through with it and I'll just live my life unhappily. It doesn't really fit for me. Doesn't really make sense for me.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't make sense for Hinako's character, but also she did go through with these crazy ass rituals the whole time. So it's like, well, why would she have done that then?
Well, I
Because
think
those.
yeah, well, I think that's a big question about like her human self versus her fox self in terms of like where does that split originate from? Does it split from the drugs that she's been taking? Does it happen because of her personal desires versus her familial desires? Or her familial duties, we should say. It's not really familial desires. She doesn't desire it. She just feels a duty to it. She feels an obligation to it. And those are big themes of this game, I feel, right? Like
Yeah, and
you're
I don't know if I'm just being an idiot or if this is actually something that might factor into it. And I only know about this because of the show Shogun, but this philosophical concept in Japan of having, a person having 3 hearts.
Mm,
Uh, one that they showed everybody, one just for their friends, and then their secret heart that only they know.
mm.
Um,
Hmm.
so basically, just the versions of yourself that you present at different levels of familiarity, and then kind of your secret innermost desires. That is your true self, I guess. I
Mm.
don't know how much of that plays in. Mark can probably speak more to that. I don't know.
I've actually never heard this before, so that's interesting.
You never watched Shogun?
No, I really do need to watch Shogun. This is not the first time we've talked about this. um, so yeah, are you guys ready to move on to the third ending?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and also like going back to the requirements, specifically for the second ending, like you have to take no red capsules and you have to get that sword. So you have to do that side quest and get the sword. And I think for the second ending, you have to purify it as well. So you have to do the puzzle to get the sword and the puzzle to get the red liquid that you can then put the sword into to purify it, and that will unlock your ability to get the second ending. Or
That
that'll
sounds
lock you
annoying.
into the second. It's really not bad. It's really not a problem. It's I mean, if anything, it's like, oh, cool, there's more puzzles to solve, and I like that because I like puzzles in my survival horror games when they're
But
good puzzles.
if you make a mistake and like you miss that section or you forget to do that, like does it guide you or like is it easy to miss and you have to have like a guide in front of you to know exactly where you do it? And if you miss it, oops, you gotta do 4+ playthroughs. Like how does it?
I think once you like progress past like that section, like basically the puzzle for the sword, getting the sword involves um that house that Jason talked about that opens up on New Game Plus, like that's where you get the first that's where you get an inkling that there's a bigger puzzle to do now. And there's these Jizo shrines throughout Ebisugo Gaoka.
Jesus,
Jesus, I keep
Shrine.
messing that up. What?
I thought you said Jesus Shrine. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, no, you're actually spreading Christianity to rural Japan. Um,
I mean, it was a thing in real history during the Meiji
I
period.
mean,
Yeah.
no, Jizo shrines that are throughout Ebisugaoka. I finally said it right that time.
Nice.
Um, and you have to find a specific offering to bring to each one, and in each section of Ebisugaoka that you go to throughout the game, there will be the offering for the shrine in that area. But so once you progress past that, I don't think you can ever backtrack. So yeah, you are kind of like if you don't do it in one section, you're kind of locked in
Damn.
to not get that. Or I don't know how like strict these ending requirements are. I'm pretty sure they're fairly strict. At least if you go into the main menu of the game, there after a first playthrough, there is a little section for endings that tells you the requirements for each one.
Okay, that's cool.
So that's at least good, right? It's not like
Mhm.
they completely leave you in the dark. But and the nice thing is also after you solve that that puzzle, both of them, the sword and the liquid, on a third playthrough, going into the third one now, the sword can just be gotten early on, and you
Mhm.
don't have to redo the puzzle to get it. I think you'll come across it at the first Jizo shrine, right before you get to Rinko's house.
Mhm.
Um, so and that's nice because you actually get to use the sword. You get it so late in your second playthrough that it feels like you barely get to use it much.
Wow.
At least on the third run, you're able to get it early on, and then you can use it like throughout pretty much the entire playthrough. And again, like that's cool because it kind of has a unique attack style and has its own unique mechanics.
Oh, so it's not
But
like bonking simulator.
I mean, I guess it kind of is like bonking simulator, but like at least she has unique animations using it. Like she actually slashes it like a sword.
Okay.
So it's not like it's a reskinned baseball bat or something.
Right.
Um, but it's still not a chainsaw. It's not a chainsaw. That's all I really have to say about it. It's cool, but it's not a chainsaw. Um, so for the third ending, no red capsules, and you have to beat it with the unpurified sword. So you just have to get the sword and then don't purify it. That brings us to the fox wets its tail, the third ending, that you can get on a second playthrough. But I did it on my third because I got all these fucking endings. Hinako defeats her fox self, rejects Kotayuki, and he gets real mad. He gets real enraged. He gets kind of, I guess, unleashes this fox spirit that is possessing him, and you have to fight him as this fox. I think the name is Shichibi. You beat the fox. He is all like, "Yeah, all right, sorry. You go, do your thing." And she goes back to Ebisugaoka with Shu, and you find out that everyone has been evacuated from the town uh due to geyser eruptions. There's lots of geyser activity, and that kind of plays more into kind of the folklore and faith aspect of this game and its story. And story, yes, because the fourth ending is going to reveal a lot of shit.
Mhm.
So what did you guys think of this one?
Again, cool boss, the nine-tail fox, Kyuubi from, Naruto. I get down with that. I think this, like you said, the ending where she succumbs to the fox wedding doesn't sound like Hinako because the whole time in the story it's like, oh, I want to hang out with the boys. I don't want to get married. I don't want to be like my mom. And so this ending makes sense. Like she winds up with her friend who treated her good, although one could argue, I mean, you don't take red pills in this. In the first playthrough, he drugs you up. He, enables your addiction. So maybe Shu isn't really the best person, but he seemed to be the only person that kind of accepted her for being who she is. So it would make sense that she would kind of side with Shu and decline to go into the arranged marriage. So
I
I guess this one makes the most sense for her character.
I can't help but notice you called him her friend when he's actually her partner.
Sorry, my bad. Partner.
Come on, Delilah.
Yeah, sorry. It's very important distinction. They play
Very subtle. Yeah.
Space Invaders. No, what is it?
Space Wars.
Space Wars,
Space
sorry.
Wars, yeah.
Space Wars
Space
together.
Invaders. Space
No.
Invader. That's a copyright or trademarked franchise. I'll have you know. They can't play that. They're not allowed.
No, I mean these two versions that we keep seeing of Hinako, the Fox Spirit one, it's very clearly trying to set a delineation between like the real Hinako that is 20 years old versus her childlike self that she wants to retreat into, kind of. And there clearly is some kind of evolution between that we're just not privy to. So when you guys say like it doesn't make sense for her character, well, which character? The child version of Hinako or the real version of Hinako? You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
So like
either
there's stuff.
realistically.
No. I'm asking rhetorically. I know you mean,
Okay. Okay.
but we're really primarily almost exclusively seeing the child version. So yeah, it might like that second ending might not make sense for the child version, but for the grown adult version, we don't know how she's changed. People
Well,
change.
what we're
It's one of the
seeing,
problems. It's one of the problems where like I understand. Okay, range marriage bad. Okay, but like we're not really getting much character growth or development or changes to like recontextualize a lot of what's going on around them. And we'll get into this even more when we talk about the other characters, but like it's like I got the point in the first playthrough and it wasn't very deep or, interesting, and you're just shoving the same thing over it. There's more being added to the plot, like you could argue,
I
but thematically, there's not much more really being put into it with these additional endings.
so I'd say let's put a pin in that until the fourth, because I think the fourth really is the most important, and
Yeah,
it's just that it's not entirely clear that you go through multiple playthroughs and multiple endings where it's centered around this marriage of Hinako and Kotoyuki, and then the fourth ending is really what kind of hammers it home of like, hey, here's kind of what's more so going on. Um and it plays into a big topic that I want to talk about. That's going to be a very broad topic for us to talk about with this game. But um and it's somewhat alluded to with this ending in terms of the post-credit scene for this, but yeah, anything else you guys want to touch on with the third ending before we move on?
No.
Yeah,
nope.
okay. So the fourth ending, this is the big one. This is the true conclusion, I guess, after a third or fourth playthrough, depending on how much of a masochist you are. This is where, again, to get this ending, you have to do four things. You have to not take red capsules again. You have to get the sword. You have to purify the sword. And one new option opens up on a third run, where you can, at a shrine just before going back to Hinako's house, there's a shrine where you can offer the brooch that Kotoyuki gives you at the end of the first ending. Or somewhere in that first run. I forget exactly when he gives it to you.
One
But
of the ceremonies, I think, but yeah.
you offer up that brooch again that was given by Kotoyuki, so it's Hinako essentially deciding before the conclusion that I'm not going through with this, I can't accept this, and then you go into that fourth ending path. That's where her two selves, the fox self and the human self, for lack of a better term, uh, reconcile with one another, kind of accept one another, and that enrages both sides of this basically war between gods within Ebisu Gaoka, which now, with that in mind, that's kind of where we start to get more answers to the question, how is this a Silent Hill game again? And
Spoiler, it's not.
well, we'll get to that bit a little bit. The question that I had my entire time playing this game really was like, how is this a Silent Hill game? Because Silent Hill, and but if you're listening to this and you are very much like, this is a Silent Hill game, what Mark's about to say is stupid, and you start getting angry at the things, but hear me out. Just let me finish listening to what I have to say here. Silent Hill is a geographic location in the United States within the canon of this franchise, within the canon of this series. It's a place. The games are named for that place.
It's a place where events happen and characters go. Only the names of the characters, places, and events have been changed.
Anyway, like that was my big question with this going into this game. Is like, how is a game set in 1960s rural Japan related to a small town in the United States? And the answer is it isn't. Like, there are no exceptions to that. There's no connection between Ebisugaoka and Silent Hill. The location. There are no connections. There's thematic connections, and that's essentially what they went for with calling this a Silent Hill game, which, agree or disagree, I think the choice is yours. Personally, I don't really fully agree with that assessment. I think better this would have been better named something else and stood on its own strengths rather than having the
Silent
baggage,
Ebisugaoka.
rather than being burdened with the name Silent Hill. I think that this could have been something better, stood on its own. But that being said, with this fourth ending, we start to get more of those connections, right? Like you've been reading these notes, these hints throughout these 3 runs or 4 runs, however many times you played through this fucking game, that there's evolving faiths, right? There used to be followers of the divine tree. I think even that faith supplanted the water dragon. That's the hint toward the end of the third ending with the geyser eruptions. Like, that's, you read notes about how there was this poisonous gas that would erupt into the air, and the locals characterized it as being the result of an ancient spiritual water
Yeah.
dragon that got angry and spewed poison. And that kind of got taken over by this Tsukumogami faith, which kind of morphed into the divine tree, which got struck down by lightning, and eventually the faith evolved into faith in the Inari and in the fox spirit. And those last 2 that I'm talking about, like, those are the 2 dueling gods, 2 dueling deities within this, like, town that are kind of fighting for superiority. And you learn that, like, I forget Kotoyuki's surname, Tsugemi maybe. Uh, anyway, his family has kind of been cursed by the Inari spirit for like a long ass time, and that's
Yeah.
why he's so heavily associated with the fox. He's basically being forced to continue his family line, and you like learn notes about, or you learn a lot about him through notes and things that like really kind of flesh out why he is such a troubled character. Like, he was born out of an affair between, I think, his father and the housemaid, and he's kind of a half-blood within this royal family, and he has a lot of pressure on his shoulders, and at the same time he is in love with this very ordinary girl that saved him as a child, and he wants to stop at nothing to marry her, and the fox spirit kind of possesses and forces that connection, forces that marriage on him, and by extension her. And then meanwhile, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot right now, but
No,
It's all
I'm
good. You
yeah.
actually played this
I'm
ending.
like I'm
You're
like trying to
also
break all this shit down.
you're also giving this information, kind of dumping it as it was dumped in that in that final playthrough of the game. Yeah. Like,
I mean, it's all spread out. It's just the fact that you really do have to play through the game multiple times and actually read
right.
these notes and find them in order to get a lot of this information. And so
And
the other
there are like some subtle hints, like is it Sukaku or Renko's family that is in charge of watching over the shrine, and she's calling you traitor through like it. There are
Mhm.
well,
hints at this kind of stuff, but yeah, it's made
and
more explicit in the final playthrough. Yeah.
yeah, and we'll talk about like those characters, and like at first their relationships to Hinako are very questionable, and then you start to get the context behind like why Sakugo calls Hinako a traitor and the nuances of that. And like, I don't know, I think that stuff is like interesting, but it shouldn't have taken me 3 full playthroughs to figure it the fuck out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the other aspect of all this is the Tsukumogami spirit, which is inhabiting that doll that Hinako got rid of as a kid. And that's why the doll is very like keeps trying to warn her, like, don't trust the fox. The fox is tricking you. He's manipulating you. And it's because the spirit is. He's manipulating Kotoyuki as well. And at the same time, yeah, this other spirit is in opposition to the fox, and they're both fighting for superiority, the superior to be the superior faith within the town. And that is where it really gets to be Silent Hill. It's just that it's not in Silent Hill, it's in Ebisugaoka. Thematically, lots of similar themes, lots of similar things, right? The Silent Hill 2 notwithstanding. Silent Hill 2 is like very much, and it sucks that a lot of people that are newer to the series are probably only going to have Silent Hill context with Silent Hill 2 because it's the only other game to come out in a modern context. And that one is very godless. Like there's not really, it's a very personal story, and it doesn't really go into the fact that Silent Hill was very driven by a cult, and in Silent Hill 1 there's a lot of cult activity. There you find out they were trying to rebirth a god, their god that they worship, and like that is a very big thing with Silent Hill. So this is a real big like connective theme to that. And the other thing that I was trying to really dig into is like what Ebisugaoka means. The only concrete thing I can determine is that Gaoka does mean on a hill or on the hill. Um, so like that aspect of the name does incorporate the word hill. There's a note in the game that I'm reading to you now courtesy of silenthillmemories.net, which is a great resource if you're a fan of Silent Hill. Um, there was a note in the game, and I'll just read this line. It said that the kanji for Ebisu and Ebisu Gaoka holds the meaning of a person who has migrated from far away. I've also read other meanings, like Ebisu is the god of fortune in Japanese, probably Shintoism, but I'm not 100% sure. None of that really cries silent to me. So they have the hill part, they don't really have the silent part. So you don't really have the naming aspect. It's just a transplanted other town with the same name in a different country under a foreign name or something. It just doesn't seem to fully connect that way. But anyway,
Yeah.
I digress. Go ahead,
So
Delilah.
when I said silent Ibisugaoka, I wasn't being corny. They
No, I
actually, I think,
know.
in ending 3 said silent Ibisugaoka
Well, the fourth
or ending
ending is
4.
called Ebisugaoka in Silence. That is the name of
Right.
the fourth ending. Um,
Right. And that's like a piece of dialogue when they're sitting uh when both Hinakos are sitting
yeah.
at the ledge and just kind of like looking at the town. Yeah. So, what do I have to say about that? Um cool. The only connection I made to Silent Hill games was the White Claudia potentially being in the pills and
White
contributing to
Claw.
all this stuff.
What's
So there was like,
that? What's White Claudia? I've never heard
it's
of
like,
that before.
there was just like one scene where you saw the flowers, and there were some notes saying that like
Yeah, experimenting with the
Western
raw
Well,
plant life.
medication.
Yeah.
well, and that's the other connection, right? Like if you recall, and slight spoilers for Silent Hill 1, we did an episode on it. It's an amazing game. It's much better than this one. Go play it. Um, there's a there's a thing that you can get in Silent Hill 1 that triggers an alternate or a different ending. I shouldn't say alternate, just an ending of Silent Hill 1. Um or at the very least it's important to the conclusion of that game. It is a red liquid that is used by the cultists, used in like spiritualism to exorcise a demon or a possessing spirit, right? And it's very coincidental that these capsules are red, and that the liquid that you have to use to purify this spirit possessed sword is red, and that there's all this red. Like, yeah, it's, to me, that is the other connection. It's just never explicitly said that it is White Claudia. It's never
Yeah.
explicitly making that connection that like this is like Delilah, you said there's a note that talks about starting to utilize more Western medicine, and I
Mhm.
guess that's the closest we come to inferring that, oh, this is like imported White Claudia that they are using for medicine.
Yeah. So the connections are very loose, and I'm not a big like Silent Hill fan as a series. I've only played one and two, and now F. And so, from my understanding, Silent Hill evolved from being a place to being more of a concept. Is that true?
In
Because
the
then that's
sense,
how I kind of like justified, like, okay, whatever. We don't even need it to be a place anymore.
I mean, in the sense that the creators after Team Silent, or the developers after Team Silent was dissolved and stopped working on the franchise, started running out of ideas. Yeah, Silent Hill just kind of became this concept of like of like a horrific fog-filled place where your darkest fears are manifested in front of you,
Hmm.
which really just like I think kind of sucks.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, I'll just put a cap
Yeah.
on it by saying this. I'm like Delilah, where I'm not like some huge fan of the series. I just played the first two games for the first time for this show. Now I'm playing this, and just purely from not just aesthetic, but also just feeling vibes as I'm playing the game, how I perceive it. Western occultism, just like I don't draw the line between that and what seems to be some kind of fucked up version of Japanese Shintoism. Like this feels like some weird gore-filled version of the animated film Spirited Away. It doesn't feel like something that I can tie in any way aesthetically, vibe, thematically to kind of the occult stuff from those. Well,
and
from Silent Hill 1, not 2, but
from what I can tell, from what I've read, like that was the intention, right? They wanted to lean more into the Japanese side of the
and
horror that Silent
maybe
Hill serves up.
In Japanese culture, Japanese people view Shintoism in the same way that we view paganism and occultism from medieval times. I'm just saying, like, from my perspective, I can't draw that line. Yeah,
Well,
For
yeah.
me,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, no,
No, I
no,
was just
go.
gonna say, for me, honestly, it just feels like they use this name because it has fandom,
marketing. Yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah,
marketing.
and yeah, we can touch on that in a little bit, because I just have feelings about how people are viewing this game and trying to justify it. But the point being is that yeah, to me, and Silent Hill can mean different things to different people. I just think that the connections are very loose and they're just thematic connections. And it's like, well, there's plenty of other games and properties that have started using those similar themes, those similar like thematic throughputs to tell their stories. And if you're trying to do that within a franchise and you're still keeping that franchise name and not setting it in that franchise's namesake, what are you really doing with it? It just doesn't make much sense. And the intention was clear. Like they were pretty open about like wanting to lean into the more Japanese horror roots, and I think that's great because Japanese horror
Totally.
has a very distinct style, and there's a lot of very distinct imagery and theming that goes into the horror like that. I'm reading a lot of I'm reading a lot of Junji Ito for the first time, and like
Oh.
I've never seen stuff like this, like
Mm-hmm.
what he has written, what he has drawn. It's like very distinct horror, and like a
Hmm.
lot of that is just like him and his mind. But like there's other Japanese horror things that exist that are at least of a similar kind of feel to them, have a similar feel to them, and
Hmm.
it's very unique, and that's what they wanted to do with this game. I get that. I totally get that. I just don't think that Silent Hill is an idea. It's not really an abstract concept to just apply wherever and whatever you want, wherever you want it. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
sure.
Um,
makes it messy.
we got very sidetracked. The fourth ending again has those two gods fighting out. It is kind of a cool sequence where one side human Hinako is fighting one, and the other side Fox Hinako is fighting the other. I don't
Less
remember
horror,
which one
more
is which.
shonen.
Yeah, it is pretty anime, I gotta say. To me, this is a very like this is the worthy conclusion. This is like what you've been playing several times for, and it was a solid ending. Her two selves come together to realize like we have to, in order to live our life, like we need to get to know one another. We need to come to understand one another. The self identity and the more familial duty self, right?
Yeah.
They need to come
Sure.
together and not hate each other, not be opposed to one another. And that's kind of how this ending goes. They annul the marriage. Both her and Kodayuki stay in touch and go their separate ways and try to be friends and kind of also like leave everything with an open book. Like maybe one day we will come together and realize that this is something that we both want and could work. But
On
right
their own
now,
terms.
yeah, but right now we were being forced to do this due to the gods of this town. We've now freed the town and ourselves of this curse. Let's get to know ourselves before we try to get to know each other. And I feel like that really wraps up the personal story of the game. It's just very backloaded with the more faithful and spiritual part of the game where you don't really know much about that until that very last playthrough.
Yeah,
So,
so I interpreted this ending differently because I didn't do the playthrough. I hadn't realized there was this god influence, although I knew even from the first playthrough there was some of that going on. I
yeah.
didn't realize that the gods were at play here. I thought it was the parents. I thought like because Hinako's father was so broke, he really needed the money, and so he was forcing Hinako and her sister to marry. And I thought
Yeah.
that Kotuyuki's parents are, it's just like that's just what they do. They just arrange marriages for whatever reasons. And so I thought that like his manifestation of the fox was just like a family, like heirloom type spirit that did that versus being like just this outer god that controls the family
I think
and
there is some connection to his ancestry, I think, with the Inari.
okay.
I don't fully, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
sit here and pretend like I know and understand every aspect of this
Well,
game.
you don't even really need to. Like in the dialogue, the fox refers to him as the fox god refers to him as a disappointment. There's a very clear the important takeaway is he's very clearly set up parallel to Hinako as kind of like a disappointment. He's not
Just in a different
what's the word?
way, yeah.
He's not fully adhering to his societally expected role.
Hmm. Um,
Yeah.
and like Delilah, you're also not wrong in like your like the point that you brought up and like yeah, the father, the family aspects and stuff, like yeah, he is broken. You learn more about why he's so broke, why he's so desperate for money and how screwed he got. You actually get a really heartfelt scene when you lock yourself into that fourth playthrough where her father does apologize to her, and it's a really emotional scene. It was actually really well acted and directed.
Mm.
The problem I have with that is you get that scene, and then a few minutes later, you still have to do the boss fight against her parents.
Yeah.
Oh,
And again,
interesting.
that plays into the whole thing of why is this the exact same game again? You really
Yeah.
needed to
Yeah.
change more. If I'm having this heartfelt scene where her father is apologizing to her for all the abuse and all the horrible things that he's done and said to her, why am I then fighting him in the exact same sequence that I did the past 2 to 3 playthroughs?
That's a
That
great
just
point.
doesn't make any sense. And it
Yeah.
really bothered me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, this is definitely the good ending, right?
No,
Like,
like I said, like for all the things that I put myself through with doing in this game, this conclusion was a worthwhile conclusion that made the whole thing like feel good to finish, right? I
yeah.
was overall pretty happy with this. And I won't I like again, I didn't even fully understand it when I finished it. A lot of the stuff regarding the dueling gods, the gods that were kind of prevailing in this town, it's not necessarily stuff that I really picked up on during and at the end of the game. Like
Hmm.
I didn't realistically, the thing that I didn't pick up on was that Tsukomogami is what was possessing the doll and was like at opposition to the Inari
Hmm.
god. That was like the one aspect that I didn't fully grasp until after the fact.
So
And
I
now
knew, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just say I knew from the first playthrough that there was a divine tree god against the Inari god because that was pretty clear in a few notes. I just hadn't
Yeah.
realized that the doll was connected to one
I
of the
guess
gods.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, is that like
Yeah.
I didn't put that together, that it was there kind of all along. Even I guess I should have picked up on that because it's what possessed Shu, and it was the other leg of the boss fight in that fourth ending. But yeah, it in
Yeah.
hindsight, I get it now.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
also troublesome because it's not the story that it's really trying to put on the forefront. The story that the game is really putting on the forefront is the wedding, is this marriage between Hinako and Kotoyuki, and I feel like that's almost to its detriment. Like by the second playthrough, we get that more, and I feel like third and fourth playthroughs, like that still is the forefront plot that it's trying to tell. Um, which it would have made more sense to really give more context behind the gods, um, and kind of made that the third playthrough focus,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
I wish
But
they
Yeah.
would have found a way to let you do like in two playthroughs or like two like one playthrough and then a half a playthrough that you can branch off into different like at like the halfway point you can things and change things up in each section
I mean,
in each gameplay in each game run to make it different enough to justify replaying it
I
because
think
I do like all these endings. I like the different outcomes. I think they all make sense in different ways depending on perspective. And I really would have liked to experience at least the endings without having to go through the whole game. Because I do
yeah,
think the story is good, actually, with all the endings in mind, like seeing how it all came together. I think it's pretty good.
yeah, it's just the work that you have to put in to get them is like it's just very redundant, and I feel like there were ways to get around that and to expedite going through that again, and they just weren't interested in doing that.
Or the best thing they could have done, and it's ironic because we talked about this with not to get too into it, but in our Silent Hill 2 episode about the padding in the remake, and how
Mm.
the game overall was just too long. They could have done what they should have done with this one is one playthrough should have only taken, so many hours. It should have been very short and brief to
Yeah.
enable you to go through it very quickly
I
in
mean,
one go, one playthrough.
we brought this up as an example earlier when talking about, like, we're not strangers to replaying games. Like Resident Evil does this
Yeah,
really well.
horror games tend to be pretty short for
And
good
you
reason.
know what also has been really short to encourage multiple playthroughs in the past? Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
No, that's what we were talking about in
Yeah.
the original versus the remake, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
okay, before we move on from endings, we actually have one more to talk about.
Oh, the UFO.
The UFO ending.
Space Wars, guys.
This one was actually really cute. It's like only a half a playthrough. You only have to progress past Rinko's house, and then that third time that you're in Ebisugaoka, you have to like interact. You had to find the radio that was that like talked about the bridges collapsing in like the first section of the game, and then in like the third part of you like roaming the town, you have to interact with these posters in order for like for UFO movies, and then you have to go and read the movie review at Chizuruya, uh, and it goes into this really cute and fun, like hand drawn manga illustrated
It
ending.
reminded me of the end credits of an anime.
Yeah, yeah, and it was because it's like a totally different art style, and a lot of anime endings like sometimes will play, or even openings will play with like something like that. It
Yeah.
was fun. It was a cute little thing.
They show the
That
dog at the end.
Yeah, in the UFO, and like it just gave the characters like it showed what they might be like in a non-traumatic situation. Like it
Yeah,
actually showed them being friends and
yeah,
having
she was a
fun.
perv. smelling their panties or something like that. I think he was.
Yeah. It was cute. I feel like it was for a UFO ending. It was like a decent like subversion of expectation for what to expect from that kind of ending in a Silent Hill game because so many of them have had that kind of ending as a joke. So this was like it was a fun extra, and
Yeah,
that's
it's
kind of
also
how I
just
wanted
the
to do it.
author playing in his native medium.
Or maybe he's making the UFO ending canon for all of them,
I
and that's
I
how he's
do
connecting them.
I do want to be clear, Jason. Ryu Kishio 7 isn't a manga artist. He has made visual novel games, which isn't the same thing, you know?
Oh,
Like
okay.
like think Doki Doki Literature Club. That's a visual novel with
Okay.
like a lot of horrific and cute shit. Go play Doki Doki Literature Club if you haven't played that. It's a great game.
Yeah.
Um anyway, so yeah, that now we have officially and formally covered all the endings of Silent Hill F. So that can now bring us into talking a little more about the characters. We really didn't talk about two characters much at all. I think we've talked about actually three characters. We've talked quite a bit about Kotoyuki, Hinako, Shu. Talked a little bit about Hinako's parents. But I think we ought to speak a little bit about Hinako's two friends, Sakuko and Rinko. I guess we could we could start with Sakuko, who I feel is the one we see the least amount of and kind of get the least about, but I find her more interesting than Rinko. Um,
Sakago is the
Is
one that's perma friend zoned, right?
Perma friend zoned in
So
what way?
she's into Shu, but Shu's into
No,
Hinako.
Rinko is the one that's into
Okay, yeah.
Shu.
I kept confusing Sakago and Renko, yeah.
Sakuko is the one that basically died at the beginning.
Right.
yeah.
And
Is she the
you
one that is Sakago the one that's afraid of the dark, or is that Renko?
No, Sakuko is the one that's afraid of the dark.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. And like yeah, the stuff that you learn about Sakuko is really interesting. There's a mini side quest early on where you find out that she is, I think, autistic
Yeah.
Yes.
or at the very least neurodivergent. Yeah, so autism. Yeah, I think you find like a note that explicitly says that she might be autistic or that she is autistic. She's the one that is the handler of the one shrine, and she doesn't really want to um do that shrine or take care of that shrine. She wants to like take care of like a much bigger, grander shrine somewhere else, and that's like her life goal. And she's the one that calls Hinako a traitor. Uh, too much mystery for most of the game. Did you guys learn why she calls Hinako a traitor?
I don't
It's
think so.
like I don't know if you read it somewhere or saw the note like when looking around online because you don't find this until I think the third playthrough where you get her full diary. Um, she
And
calls him
I believe Hinako makes some sort of promise to her, right, regarding her like her autistic nature,
well.
something to that effect. I forgot.
It's not so it's not to that like the fact that she's autistic is just like I guess flavor for her character. Really, the reason she calls Hinako a traitor is and why like you get these kind of bouts, these notes, these messages of her being angry with Hinako, and then in the third playthrough you find out that it's very exaggerated. They had made a promise, or really Sakuko had forced a promise onto Hinako that neither of them would get a boyfriend
Oh, yes, yes,
on
yes.
their own. Like they both had, if one of them started dating someone, they both had to start dating someone. If both of them had a boyfriend, or one of them had a boyfriend, they both had to have a boyfriend. She calls Hinako a traitor because Hinako, like all throughout this game, like Hinako is in this arranged marriage. She broke that promise, quote unquote, to Sakuko. The reason Rinko says that she's dead is because like she had you come to learn through notes is like Hinako had to cut off all of her former ties, all of her former relationships. She now just has to be a dutiful wife. So all of her friends, like that sequence where Hinako is slowly killing them, like that was meant to represent her severing those ties to those people. Rinko has this like huge grudge, this whole huge chip on her shoulder about Hinako, and it's because yeah, she's like in love with Shu. She's like obsessed with Shu, and Shu and Hinako are best friends. And you also come to learn Shu has these feelings for Hinako that are somewhat unrequited because Hinako isn't interested in romance. She's not interested in love, and
Got way too many
Ri-
friend zone characters, man.
Rinko is like very jealous of Hinako for having so much of Shu's attention and not reciprocating his feelings. And she's like, "Well, if it were me, I would reciprocate them because I fucking love this guy." And like again, a lot of these interactions, a lot of these feelings surrounding these characters, you find out through notes. But I do feel like that is pretty effective, at least in the sense that these characters don't affect the plot very much.
Yeah, and to the
Yeah.
game's credit, the unrequited love from Rinko to Shu is made very obvious in the cutscenes in your first playthrough.
Yeah.
Like you don't really
Yeah.
need much fleshing out. That's very apparent.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Especially because Rinko also tries to push you down the
He pushes
stairs
you
and
down
kill
the
you.
stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't have much to say. I think both of them served a very small part. I think it's kind of like a common thing for like a boy and a girl that are friends to have, the opposite sex be jealous if there's a crush. Like that even
Yeah.
happens nowadays, but
I
definitely
mean
back in
that's
the days,
biology, yeah.
yeah.
That's cat fights, mean girls, yeah.
I think there's still like TikToks being made like, can you be friends with the opposite sex? you know, um,
mhm.
which is, yeah, I mean, we're friends, right? But yeah, like
Oh,
it's just
wow.
a weird, stupid thing. Um,
I will say to the game's credit, the cutscenes where you kill Rinko and Sakuko are probably two of, if not the best cutscenes in the entire game.
I think
The
the
one
yeah,
where you lower her into the lava and the other one where you leave her, they're very fucked up.
yeah,
yeah.
They maximize on the psychological horror aspect. So,
Yeah,
to the game's credit.
I particularly it's kind of sadistic to say that I liked this scene, but I particularly liked the scene with Sakuko where like Hinako just leaves and the door starts like going further down after the lights have been blown out and she's just like panicking more
Yeah.
and more and more until like it completely closes and she like completely loses it. What a I mean, just really effective,
Probably
yeah.
the
without
most singular, most horrific thing in the game, in my
yeah.
opinion, yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. It was so great. It's so horrific. I'm trying to avoid like having a very positive attitude about something like that, but it
Yeah,
really was effective. It was very good.
it was. At that point, I was questioning. I was like, damn, did these girls really do her that wrong that she needed to go this hard? Like, what the
Yo,
heck?
man, and when you got multiple females and one male, the females will all sabotage each other so that none of them can have them.
Oh my god. All right, let's not
It's vicious, man. It's
let's not play
vicious.
like we're already talking about autism and now you're also talking about like gender stereotypes like all right,
Oh, it's not a
let's
stereotype. It's just when left to hey, it's the same way that men will fucking kill each other for a woman. It's fucked up, and but at
Jesus
a
Christ.
Darwinian level, that's just the way we are, man. We're slightly evolved monkeys. Not even
All right.
joking. That's
All right. I think the only other character we haven't really talked much about. I mean, I guess we didn't talk much about Hinako's parents. Like I brought up the scene about her father being really apologetic, and that was a really powerful scene. There's also a scene in that route where Hinako levels with her mother and learns like the reason why her father is like so broke, and it's because like he had a best friend that he used to like work with a lot and like they were really close as brothers, and then one day the friend like took all of his money and ran and left him completely broke and left him brokenhearted as well because it was like that's my best friend and like I guess I didn't know him as well as I thought I did, and that's why like he's so pressed for money and kind of seeks guidance and help at the bottom of a bottle, and becomes like so abusive and so desperate to kind of fix his financial situation. That the solution is, all right, sell off my daughters for marriage. But
Yeah,
there's
I
to
was not
convey
in.
that there's an emotional scene between Hinako and her mother, when you're in the Shimori house, um which was, it was a good scene, like another really emotional and good scene to make that final playthrough worth it. Which all the,
Yeah,
again, makes it all the weirder that you have to fucking fight them at the end of
yeah,
that level anyway. It just makes no
but
sense.
even more so, like given that the game opens up with in media res her running away from the drunken yelling father and the mother, I was quite
That's
disappointed
not
with.
really in media res.
Well,
Like that's just
I'm just
the,
saying,
yeah.
it doesn't show the beginning of that sequence. It just shows her running away from it. Um, so you don't know for certain, but you can obviously take from it that there's a very stressed relationship in the household.
Yeah, definitely
And
that. I won't
the
disagree.
what I'm really trying to get at is that the game opens with that. So I was expecting there to be much more emphasis and much more exploration of that, especially considering the time period they chose to place this in. 1960s Japan, just for some historical context, her father and most men of his age would have, as young men, maybe in many cases as boys, fought in World War II in the Pacific, been stranded on islands for years, and have been extraordinarily lucky to survive. And as a society, Japan suffered a lot of undiagnosed PTSD during this time period in the 60s, um, which was something I was not necessarily expect. Yeah, I was kind of expecting that would have been something more interested than, oh, I just had a friend that tricked me. And
I feel like they're
overall,
also,
I feel like both parents were underexplored, and especially considering that the game opens with them, um, or we don't see them, but it opens with them yelling. I was expecting that to be there to be more focus on that and the relationship with Hinako, and we didn't really get much exploration. And I really found the eventual explanation of the father's indebtedness and drunkenness to be kind of lackluster.
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
I
I mean, I
agree.
Imagine a boss fight with the father where you're at least to get, if for no other reason than to get some environmental variety. You're transported to the jungles of fucking Okinawa, not Okinawa, Peleliu or some shit, and the father is getting a fucking PTSD flashback as a demon that you have to
so
face in the jungle. I don't know.
so you're saying you'd rather Silent Hill F have been more like Death Stranding. Got it.
Honestly, it would have made more sense if you're changing the father's entire backstory. It would have made more sense
I
than it does in Death Stranding.
I don't necessarily, I see where you're coming from, Jason. I don't have a problem with this explanation, but I'm sure that you're the one that you're presenting, like, it could be plausible, maybe more plausible, or at the very least fitting for the time period. I don't think it's a problem the way they wrote the father. I do kind of wish, I guess, transition. I do kind of wish that they had done a little more with Junko, her sister.
Yes, that too.
Um,
What
she
I just said for the parents goes for it goes for the whole family dynamic. There was so much more emphasis placed on the friends and Kuryoko that I felt like
Kotoyuki.
Koriyuki, sorry, should have been placed on her actual family.
Well, I think there definitely needed to be a bit of a balance, right? Because
Sure, sure.
you have those two Hinakos, those two selves, and I keep referring. One is the one of self identity, and the other is like familial duty. And the familial duty aspect is just like she has to get married, and yeah, maybe more of an exploration of that family dynamic. And I think part of that could play into a more interesting role for Junko. Junko kind of just seems like she's there to further the Fox's plot, and she doesn't. They kind of set her up to be a little more interesting than that, in my opinion, from the very outset of the game. Because you open the journal and you have an entry for Hinako, you have an entry for her father, her mother, and for Junko. And Junko's face is like blotted out with ink, like you can't
Right.
see her face in the journal, and that made it seem mysterious, right? And all it really ends with, like, oh, she used to live with us, but then she got married.
Yeah.
and the first entry ends there, and it makes it seem like what happened when she got married. And I actually thought, I guess to go back to ending one, I actually thought that my initial impression was the after credits thing where a bride ran from her wedding and murdered people or whatever.
It was talking about Junko,
I
yeah.
thought it was talking about Junko at first.
Mm.
And come to find out, no, it's talking about Hinako. But like, I really thought they set up Junko to be this a more important player in this plot, a more important player in this mystery, and she really was just a pawn.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
even a pawn, but just like more like I guess like a guide, right? Like, follow my example, Hinako, get married, marry the fox, marry Kodayuki. And like that was really the only purpose she realistically seemed to serve, which was kind of a letdown. I feel like they could have done
Sure.
more with her.
Yeah, I agree.
And
And she was also there to just compare to Hinako. Like she was more feminine, she was more willing to, fulfill her duty and fill stereotypes, gender stereotypes, unlike Hinako. Also, I thought they were going to do more with her because I believe she had like a bird mask rather than a fox mask, which I don't know if that's any indication of there being like a third god in play, or if masks of an animal are just meant to represent marriage in period. So I feel like they
I
definitely could have
Correct
done
me
more
if
with
I'm
that.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if this is depicting, beliefs from Shintoism, and Shintoism, like, they're like, there's no like set number of spirits. They're like, like everything's got a spirit. So like, the
Yeah.
masks could be, yeah, virtually anything. Spirits, like spirits of a local creek, or yeah.
so two things. One, if I just search Junko meaning, typically the kanji, I don't know which kanji specifically is used for her name in the context of the game, but it it typically translates to like pure child, obedient child,
Mm.
uh that kind of thing. So, which
Right.
I guess is kind of fitting for her character. She's the one that actually followed through on becoming a dutiful wife to a husband, fulfilling the family's wishes. The other aspect
Which
that
we
I'll
already get
say,
from the mother as well, which to more
the
going off of what you were saying about how Junko is so underutilized, her mother already kind of fulfills the role that they're putting
I
on her.
I think there's a more interesting just read on the reason for the bird mask, and it's that it's pretty explicitly stated that Hinako's name means baby bird. Junko is the older sister. She's, I guess, has a bird mask because she is the adult or the adult ideal that the family wants to see Hinako become.
Okay.
And I that's how I'm gonna take it as why she has a bird mask.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So and that's kind of played into, I don't know if it's notes or dialogue, or maybe a mix of the two. That Hinako's name, Baby Bird, and I think they mention like that even a baby bird has wings, something along those lines. Like they kind of play into the meaning of Hinako's name, uh, with her character and her character's journey. So I think that is probably the better explanation for Junko's mask.
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool. One other thing with the mask that I don't know if I read into it too much or if I didn't analyze it as deeply as maybe I should have, is that the fox mask that Hinako was wearing was more look like more of the masculine fox masks because they did show men and women in those masks, and the women mask versus the men's masks were designed differently, and the mask that Hinako had was like the man's mask. So I don't know if that was like sort of Kotiyuki's way of accepting her to not being, as feminine as society wants her to be. Again, I could be reading too into it or not reading into it
Well,
as much.
no, I think that's a great observation, and I don't know if that's like Kotoyuki's doing or if that's more Hinako. Like, right, like
Mhm.
she explicitly and repeatedly talks about how she, like, at times she's flat out said like she doesn't want to be a girl, or she wishes that she wasn't a girl. And it's not because she doesn't like being a girl, it's that she doesn't fit into the mold that her society wants her to fill, right? Like she doesn't want to play with dolls. She wants to play Space Wars with Shu, and she wants to do she wants to play with the boys and what the boys do, and her kind of community, her society, her country, her culture doesn't really allow for that, or allow her to fit into that, and it
Mhm.
frustrates her. So yeah, like I think it's definitely a good read that, like, if I mean, even the arm, it's a very big
Yeah.
kind, like to the point where I almost thought it was like more like a wolf's arm or something. It's like
Yeah.
the thing is huge and very furry, and it's
Very,
like
very romanticy, yes.
Yeah.
it's like that definitely a more masculine arm, and if you're reading on the mask is more masculine, that's a
Big,
really good observation.
big and veiny, yes.
Jason, you
Yeah.
reading a lot of romanticy over there, buddy?
Oh, hell no. I'm
my
just trying to
my
make the implication of what you're saying more explicit for some of our audience.
Yeah, you're gonna give this episode a spice level.
Oh, hell no.
um yeah, I think that's a really good observation, Delilah. I like it. I think it more has to do with just her character and who she is, that's the mask, that an arm that she's given.
Hmm.
um But you could read it as like Kodayuki being more accepting of her as a person. I don't personally view it that way, because the very fact that, like, he's, maybe not all because of his own doing or his own want, but like he is forcing her into a marriage that she very clearly doesn't want. So I don't see how giving her more masculine fox parts would really be compromising with her in a
Yeah.
meaningful way. But
Sure.
yeah, I don't. But it's food for thought. It's definitely a good thing to bring up.
Yeah. Mm. In the 90s,
Um,
we called Hinako a tomboy, and that's all she
yeah, I
was.
mean, talking to my one friend who's still slowly playing through the game, like that's how she's been referring to Hinako, as she's
Mhm.
been referring to her as a tomboy, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's like in acts, yeah, she doesn't really dress like one, and that's partly Japanese culture as well. Like
Yeah, school
they
uniform.
all are, yeah. So, but
That's really what I
anyway,
mean when I said repeat like multiple times earlier that like just not that much interesting even when you've gone through the multiple endings and playthroughs. It's like, oh yeah, she's a tomboy. That's
Yeah, there's
interesting
a lot of
subpoint to the
those.
story. Yeah,
yeah.
it's like that's why I brought up the father and other characters, and I agree with you about Yunko, how they're underutilized. Like talking about themes like self-identity, duty, faith, cultural adherence, like the experience of a soldier coming back from war who survived this horrific event and how he handles that horror, and the conception of manliness, not being able to show emotion. There's just so much depth to be played with there that's just not.
Well, okay, but that last point, like, that is conveyed in the scene where he apologizes to her, and like
Yeah, somewhat.
it's
Yeah,
pa-
I
it,
agree,
it's
but
part of the apology, and I feel like it's a big part of what makes it so impactful. It's just
there's
the
just so much more
reasoning.
that could have been explored there.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, Jason. I think it was perfectly fine for me, and it just sounds like it wasn't effective enough for you, and I get that. Like, it's fine, but
Yeah.
um, is there anything else big you guys want to dig into with the story? We've gone on a really long time. There was a lot to dig into, a lot to unpack, and I'm very sorry for how much I have spoken in this
No, I mean,
episode.
no. I mean, I don't really have much to say because again, I was like, I watched Skillup's review of this, and he's like, yeah, the game kind of sucks, but the story is so good that it's okay. And I'm like, dude, if you think this story is worth the play, I'm sorry. Like, I can no longer
Oh
value your
no,
judgment.
it's like I think it's a solid story. The question just
It's
becomes, I think it's a solid story. The way that it's structured is not good.
Yeah,
The
I
way
could
that
agree with
it
that. I mean, it's not like as good of a story as Silent Hill 2 or maybe some
well,
of the other Silent Hill
it's
games.
few
nowhere near
things
the levels of
are.
True,
Silent Hill.
true.
Yeah.
True. And I will say like there's other stories I've played this year specifically that I actually liked more, but I actually like this story more than some other ones. So it's, I
I
think it's a
really,
decent story.
I really want to know this tier list of yours. God damn. We could talk about that offline, but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
curious now.
But I agree. I think like the story once it comes together and you actually play all the playthroughs and it unfolds, I don't think it's worth playing the playthroughs. However,
Right,
when
right.
it does all come together, I can see it is a lot better than it was after first playthrough, which is a huge problem. Um, I don't think it's even with all the data, I still don't think it's like this groundbreaking, amazing thing. I mean,
No,
let's be
no.
real. We already had one of those this year, and this doesn't even come close to it. But I think it was serviceable for what it was, for the time period, for the theme, and yeah, they could have done more, like Jason said, like historically. But I think it was fine overall story wise. It's not my biggest complaint of the game, and we'll get into what they are, I guess, as we go.
Well, no, I guess we could get into that right now. So what made you guys not want to play this game a second or third or fourth time? What was
Besides
there
that
was there an
really
issue? Was there something you didn't like?
besides that really empty ending, it was the combat was just god awful. Like I said, it's
Duty.
stiff bonk jank simulator
Hot duty.
2025.
All right, so I
It
really
was
do.
Insert in when you go back to edit, Mark, just put in the Jeff Goldblum meme from Jurassic Park. That's one big pile of shit. And that is this gameplay in a nutshell.
So okay,
it's like just real quick,
why?
Mark, you said it perfectly.
Okay.
Reskin baseball bat. That was every single weapon was a reskin baseball bat.
All right,
They all function the
that's not
same.
true. That's not true, but we'll get to it. I do
Okay,
want to know like
I can give a bit of a more so it has a lot of the features, and I know this is an overused term, but it has a lot of the things you would think of from a FromSoft game, even though it's not trying to be a FromSoft game. I
is this a
understand that.
Souls like?
Oh
Yeah, no,
God, don't get
I
me
know.
started.
But I'm just using it as a point of reference because it does like there's a lot of things there that you would see. There's a lot of other things that it's using that, but it is extraordinarily janky. You don't get the same kind of iframes for dodging. There's a lot of animation lock in that is meant to. I understand the intent behind the game design. It's meant to lock you in to so that each individual attack is a decision you make. You know, in the same way that you make each individual decision to shoot each individual bullet in a horror game where you're managing, say, your ammo count. Once you're locked into the attack, you're locked into the animation frame. The problem is that you have enemies that are jumping across maps. There's a parry mechanic that like rarely actually shows up for you to parry.
Oh,
There's a
I
stamina
I
meter. Sorry, what was that?
I use that all the time. The you're talking about like the counter thing where there's a
The red
visual
mark that
thing?
shows up. Yeah, that red mark
Yeah.
almost never shows up. It's
Oh
only
no, it
certain
shows up.
attacks.
No, it shows up a lot. I used it a ton
Maybe it is because you went through multiple playthroughs,
because
so it's just
I'm
you.
an ultra elite gamer,
But there were many encounters
so
where
good at.
I was just circling enemies, waiting for them to come up with a red mark to counter, and it never happened. So I just went in and started bashing them. Regardless,
So anyway, I
enemies,
started
yeah,
blasting.
enemies can jump all over. They can redirect midair. They pop. It's so annoying. You'll be walking down a hall. They'll just pop out of a side door that you can't see because of the dumb camera. There's so many corridors and so much jank that you get caught in the camera constantly. You constantly are hitting walls because you're in these small corridors and it's impossible to tell if your swing arc is going to hit a wall or not. Which goes to hitboxes, which are almost impossible to estimate with the enemies. There is so much wrong on tiny nitty gritty that all piles up into a big pile of shit that I talked about at the beginning. Combat is just not fun. And on top of that, you got weapon degradation, which is almost never a good idea. Almost nobody can do weapon degradation right.
Yeah, the only developer to ever do it right was Nintendo with Breath of the Wild. So
Oh my god, shut the fuck up right now. Um, Stamina. The stamina bar sucks in this fucking game. You can barely do anything for most of the game, and even that upgraded towards the end of the first playthrough. It's just so much. It is just not fun to play in the least bit.
Yeah. I feel like Well, it's 100% not a Souls-like, so let's just cross that out. There are no souls. Um,
I'm just using, yeah, I was just using that as
no,
like a
yeah.
basis for where to start
It's
because a
Basically,
lot of
because
people
there's a
nowadays,
don't get
heavy
it.
and a light attack,
Yeah,
and you can
yeah,
yeah.
click the stick to lock
there's
on.
dodging, parrying, yes.
Yeah,
Except the timing is shit in this game.
Right. That's what I
And
was getting to with like you don't get the iframes. Yeah, all that shit is yeah.
yeah. I just yeah, I think it was boring. I don't enjoy playing it. And it forces you into combat. It's not like I could run past every enemy. I did some, but there's so many sections where they have like
Yeah,
hordes
it
of enemies
locks
that you
the
have to take out
doors.
and you're
Yeah.
forced to fight them. So, if I was able to like run past them,
uh,
maybe that would have justified some things.
I'll say on
I
repeat
just didn't like
playthroughs,
it.
I definitely found creative ways to just avoid combat as much as possible, just to get to the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, I did that in like the last cutscene when
Yeah.
you have all the wedding people resurrect,
Yeah.
and you have to like, you either fight them all or you run through. I just ran through. I was like, I'm so tired of the combat at this point, and I'm just 11 hours into the game. So yeah, it was just very boring, very janky. I don't enjoy playing it, and I don't enjoy watching people play it. I tried watching this game and other playthroughs just to see if maybe it's worth going back to because I really wanted to convince myself because it was spooky season and I really wanted something spooky to play, and this felt like the right game to play. And I found watching people to be very boring as well. So I was like, oh, it's not just me playing this game wrong. Like this game is actually just sucks when it comes to combat. So yeah, that's it. I'm not gonna keep going about the combat because it's just not good in my opinion.
And to all the people I've heard online say, "Well, Silent Hill was never about the combat." No, other Silent Hill games, at least the first two that I have played, did not actively aggravate me, make me dread playing the game
Well, you
to
can
the
also
point where
run
I could
past
only
most
stand an
enemies.
hour at the time.
And okay, and if I can give my 2 cents here, you just hit the nail on the head, Jason. That's kind of the issue I have with Silent Hill 2 remake and this game. Silent Hill has never been about the combat. And like that's even going back to like when Silent Hill 1 came out, it had better combat than Resident Evil did at the time.
Hmm.
And it still like wasn't really the core allure. It wasn't the drawing factor to play Silent Hill. And for several games it kind of remained pretty stagnant. They weren't innovating on the gameplay. They weren't innovating on the combat. And when they finally did with Silent Hill 4, where there were very big changes to the combat, that's also the first game where people started to feel very divisive about it, about the game as a whole. There's other things about 4 that are very divisive, but the combat is probably the most divisive thing, I think, from at least
But
from
the
all the
point
conversations
I'm
I've.
trying to get at is that the combat from the original and well, I only played 2 remake. It was serviceable. Here, it's
And
not even fucking serviceable.
on that we can disagree. I do think that this combat is fine. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's good. I think it's just fine. The bigger issue I have is like this combat is just not fitting for this setting and for this character and for the things going on. And like you
Right.
could make an argument like Silent Hill 3, which we haven't played for this show, and I'm not going to talk about too much, other than the fact that you play as a teenage girl named Heather, and like you're still doing this. She is still doing the same combat maneuvers that James did in Silent Hill 2, that Harry did in Silent Hill 1. Like she can still grab a pipe and smack people with it. She can still use firearms in the most basic way. But that to me isn't quite the same as perfect dodging and doing like light and heavy attacks on things, and getting omamori that you can equip that will allow you to, I don't know, have more stamina, or perfectly execute those counters that Jason says never show up. There's an omamori you can get that will just automatically do them, and it's part of like a build. And like this is where I draw the line. If you have to talk about like specific builds that you're using for your characters in a Silent Hill game, you failed. You failed the core objective.
You lose. Good day, sir.
I shouldn't be setting up builds in a Silent Hill game.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
This
Also,
is...
when yeah,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Delilah. No, go
I
ahead,
was
go ahead.
gonna say when she finally gets the arm, I think that was the opportunity to make the combat better. Like if you're gonna focus on combat, that was the opportunity to make it a little bit smoother and less frustrating. But her arm functioned just like the bat, like I said, reskin bat. And yeah, it was a little stronger, and you had that like berserk move that you can
Yeah, you
use.
can activate Spartan Rage.
Spartan Rage, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. But it
There's
didn't
such a
make it any more
mishmash of
fun.
gameplay ideas here. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just
exactly.
I'm just imagining Delilah on the QA team for the hey, yo guys, come here. So like I think you should make the combat better.
Oh, that's so cute. You think QA gets to say and give any feedback, and even remotely like that? No.
Because
I know, I
because
know, I know, I know.
it's like
I'm just
okay,
in the
I
same
know.
deadpan way she just said that. I'm just imagining Delilah.
Take this and make it better?
yeah, just make it better.
Make it
Because
not bad?
like you can't okay, can't have guns in the setting, right? I get it. But this is just like if basically James Sutherland was stuck with a bat the whole game. It just like it just doesn't feel with a dodging and parrying mechanics added.
Especially
It
with
just
how shonen it gets at times, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
it just I feel
I
like
mean,
the guns really help in these kinds of games, to be
I
honest. And
mean,
I don't expect them to put guns in this kind of setting, but I feel
and
like if they're gonna have melee, they need to make it better.
to its credit, like, there's three different like melee types, and the reason I push back on the bat thing is because after you get like halfway through a bat's durability, it actually fundamentally changes the moveset of the weapon.
Hmm.
Um, because the bat actually breaks and it becomes jagged and sharp, and she starts like kind of stabbing with it instead of smacking with it. Which I thought was like that's a cool idea, and I feel like maybe having another weapon that would kind of change how it functioned midway through its durability, like just to add a little more variety and give a little more choice. But like that's all stuff that I think would be better in a game not called Silent Hill. Why are we doing this in a Silent Hill
Yeah,
game?
no, don't put this combat in
I
any game. I'm sorry.
I just it's like it's more involved. It's very similar to me. It's very similar to Silent Hill 2 Remake's combat, but like more involved. And again, like I didn't even like that game's combat because it was too involved. So when you take that and you make it more, I don't want that. I
I'm
don't
just
want that in a
I'm
Silent
just
Hill
thinking of
game.
Delilah's response to this now in the context of like that scene from Billy Madison towards the end.
You're just full of movie references today,
Just
buddy.
Delilah talking to the dead, being like, "The game you have made, in no way, shape, or form is fun. You should take off your name tag, leave the building, and never ever make a video game again. Never put this combat in any game ever again."
Yeah, scrap the combat. To fire the
No.
team. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Enough people in the industry are getting
No, no.
fired.
Like I don't think the combat is bad. I just don't think it's fitting. That's really my hang up. It's just like like why am I doing this in a Silent Hill game? That's my problem. Why Silent Hill to me is not this. It's not this kind of combat. It's not weapon durability. It's not light and heavy attacks. It's not perfect dodges and count and
Builds.
timed
Yeah, it's
counters and
ironic. It's
builds.
ironic that identity is like a thematic element of this story, or at least they were attempting to make it a thematic element of the story. When like this entire game has an identity crisis in almost every way possible,
Thematically and
like
And like
storytelling, gameplay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and to the
yeah,
series.
and I guess this is like a good pivot to like what we were kind of talking a little bit about earlier, Jason, and like the conversations I've seen from fans surrounding this game, and that's that like the people that were let down by this game were mostly let down because of the combat, because of the way it actually plays. And like I don't blame them. I definitely feel like I fall into that camp. The other aspect of that is I feel like a lot of fans desperately trying to justify this, and we talked about this pretty extensively, but desperately trying to justify this game's status as a Silent Hill game because, oh, it's so Silent Hilly. It's got these aspects and this aspect and this and this and this. It's got fog, it's got cults, it's got
Superficial elements.
yeah,
Yeah.
superficial elements, thematic elements, but not things that really tie it to that franchise. If you didn't call this Silent Hill, you would never say it's a Silent Hill game. You just wouldn't.
No.
But the fact that it has that in the name, yeah, it feels very much like a marketing decision.
And I guarantee you it would not have sold anywhere near what it did if it didn't have Silent Hill on the front.
You're probably right about that.
Yeah, there's 2 horror games that came out around spooky season that are new, and that was Silent Hill F and Chronos: The New Dawn. And a lot of people are playing Silent Hill F, and not many people are playing Chronos. And I think Chronos is so much better in so many other ways. So that
Yeah, I
would be
feel
my
like
a spooky game choice of the year.
I
So
feel like
far.
you definitely would have had more like streamers and some more attention on Kronos, and it might have been bigger. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
kind of surprised considering everyone has a raging hard on for that Silent Hill 2 remake that Bloober made.
I like that game, so yeah.
Me being a snotty little asshole. All right.
Yeah. But there were things about this game that I like, and I think it's some of those superficial Silent Hill elements that I did enjoy. I do think Ibisugaoka, that like having with the fog, that very like rural mountaintop, and then you go into this very sort of claustrophobic apartment area. That was really, really cool to experience and to look. I think the Japanese aesthetic with the fog looked awesome. And also the enemy designs were fucking creepy, and I just really enjoyed this game from an aesthetic perspective. Even the map design like was very Silent Hill, which I appreciated because I think Silent Hill games make some of the best maps in video games, and I think this game did a pretty good job in implementing that, especially when you get to the school, which I really wish that section was a lot longer. It was kind of like when you
Yeah.
get to the apartments or the hospital, but it was just so much more short. And then when you get to the estate, the house of the family, that was
Yeah, the
also very
Shimizu house.
cool. So I do there those 3 things, and the music, the environments, not the shrine area. That was very boring and bland, and I didn't
Very
really like those
repetitive
sections.
too. Yeah.
Very repetitive. It just lacked a lot. Although there were some cool puzzles, and to this game's credit, there are some cool puzzles, but the
But just
music's
just from a design
excellent.
perspective, yeah.
Yeah, the aesthetics are great. Like I definitely liked looking around the environments, and the enemy designs were awesome. So
And
yeah.
Sure,
so
it very much felt like a time machine back with some of those enemy designs to like the days when we were trend chasing in cinema. You had The Ring, The Grudge,
Yeah,
both remakes of Japanese horror films. Yeah.
but I also
absolutely.
like just to expound on some of Delilah's points, and I totally agree, and like a lot of the same aspects that you bring up, like some one of the things about Silent Hill monsters, and in particular, we talked about this pretty exhaustively with our Silent Hill 2 episode. Like they're kind of meant to represent something, and I feel like that extends to this game. Like I feel like you can look at a lot of the monsters in this game and kind of draw like conclusions as to why these things are what they are, what they really represent. I think like having Hinako's journal kind of helps with that because she adds like a description for each one, and with her thoughts being poured onto a page, you can kind of infer like why these things represent what they do or how she kind of views them, and that's how we can kind of view them too. Like the one monster that's like very a little brawlic actually kind of
Mim-
reminds me of lickers from Resident Evil, but they're
mhm.
not very like they don't have like the as long of a tongue, but they're just like very fast and kind of on all
Yeah.
fours and jumping around real quick. Like she kind of refers to them as like very masculine men and stuff like that, and how they kind of bother her or something, and like that might be kind of a manifestation of like men that are hitting on her, and she finds that uncomfortable because she's not interested in romance. And maybe it's not too far-fetched considering when one of these enemies grabs Hinako, it licks her, and like that's kind of gross. And
Hmm.
I feel like there's something to analyze there. There's a lot of things that could be analyzed there with the monsters, and
Yeah.
that's really cool because those monster designs are really creepy, really effective, and if they can be analyzed to be fitting for like psychological manifestations of Hinako's, like I think that's a plus.
Yeah, for sure. Even
Um,
the like pregnant bellied creature, it was just a bunch of like pregnant
yeah.
bellies all over it. That was so creepy to see.
Hmm.
And then like the main enemies that you are first introduced to, which is just like women as puppets. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little judgmental. I was like, this looks a little like the Silent Hill 2 enemies, a little too much. What is this like sort of sexual manifestation? But then the way they kind of like are contorted is more demonstrative of like women as puppets, which makes sense
Yeah.
thematically for this game.
It's definitely like Silent Hill 2 goes for much more like sexual theming, and this game isn't real, like it's maybe using some similar ideas, some similar designs, but definitely putting its own stamp on them, which I really appreciate, and I definitely agree with that assessment you just gave on
Mhm.
on the puppetry of it all.
Yeah.
Um Other thing I just want to point out, just for added information, Ebisu Gaoka is inspired by Kanayama in the Gifu Prefecture in Japan.
Mm.
Um, so it very much is drawing from a real life location and kind of using that to design this area. So that just adds a bit to the uniqueness. Small little area in a prefecture. In kind of more rural Japan, it's like several prefectures away from Tokyo, several prefectures away from Kyoto. So like I don't know what the nearest major city would be to that area. So that
Mm.
again just speaks to the ruralness of it. Um and I do like the map and kind of like exploring it. It's just a little more linear than I'd like from say like Silent Hill.
Yeah.
There's not too much getting lost.
Yeah. Or
Because it's just,
backtracking.
yeah, I mean yeah, there's a bit of that just but in those isolated areas,
Hmm.
it's and when you're talking about just backtracking and exploring in isolated areas, it's not so
I mean,
open-ended.
you're usually blocked off on a specific path.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's a bit of a disappointment. But yeah, like to your point, Delilah, like the Silent Hill dungeons, as I kind of like to call them,
Hmm.
the school, the Shimizu household, even the shrine. I didn't hate the shrine. It it had there was something there like in terms I mean I really liked the puzzles in this game. I think the puzzle I mean the fact that I had to think was like, oh my god, coming off of the Silent Hill 2 remake, this is a fucking surprise. I actually have to think about some of these puzzles. This is great. um and I really enjoyed the puzzles. I think the school was definitely the highlight for most people, because it
Yeah,
was the most like traditional Silent Hill dungeon.
Yeah.
uh
and
it
had actual backtracking with keys and yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, but it definitely like felt it didn't even feel nearly as big as the elementary school in Silent Hill 1. That was a PS1 game. I feel like there could have been more. Definitely could have been more to this.
Yeah.
Um, but that kind of being said, like what were your guys' favorite and then least favorite puzzles? What difficulties did we all play on? And
Normal.
before I played on every difficulty. You
The,
played
the
on
default. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
it's there's story, there's hard, and there's lost in the fog.
Oh,
So I
right.
I played on the default whatever headset, which was I think combat was normal, but puzzles was on
S-
hard.
Okay, so story and hard.
Right. They didn't Lost in the Fog's not available
No.
until you beat it once.
Oh yeah,
Oh
you
yeah,
might be
that's
right
right.
about
That's
that.
right.
So I
Story
think
is
I played
like
on
normal.
story
Yeah.
then, which is normal,
Okay.
technically.
No, for combat and puzzle, or
Yeah.
did you?
Mhm.
Okay, okay. And like the puzzles are different depending on the difficulty. They're like the same puzzle, it's just but different clues and different solutions, right? Like the scarecrow puzzle on story, you just have to find the scarecrow mannequin that most resembles Hinako for each step of it. Meanwhile, on hard difficulty for that puzzle, you have to find the scarecrow that most resemble or most is most inferred by the clue that's given. Like someone mentioned like having a fake smile on, so you have to find the scarecrow that had a smile on the front of their face but a frown on the back, and kind of read into the clue that's given to solve it.
Or you
So
can just
that's
do them one
funny
by
you
one
say
until you find the
that
right
because
one.
that puzzle specifically stumped me because I was going by the item description, the note description, rather than the obvious solution, which is that they're all whichever one looks like Hinako. So I actually overthought some of these puzzles, but I'm glad that the overthinking was there to solve the harder puzzles. So I probably should have played it on hard puzzle difficulty, and I would have had less of a difficult time.
I mean, I playing through as many times as I did every difficulty for combat and puzzle, and that was really fulfilling because I got to kind of see every puzzle there was for the game,
Mhm.
which was like among my favorite aspects. So that was good. But yeah, what were your guys' favorite and least favorite? I guess. Do you remember
I
them
gotta
all?
think because I played this
Least
game when it
favorite was
first released.
definitely the one with there was I think it was in the school. It's one with the boxes, and it's like
Yeah, the
it
box
assumes that
puzzle.
you basically have to know what a specific like type of tree looks like in
Sakura.
order to
Yeah, you need to know what
yeah.
a Sakura tree looks like.
So that
That's
was fucking frustrating. Yeah.
that was also probably my least favorite puzzle in the game. Because of that reason, it just was a little like, I get it. This is a Japanese. It's a Japanese game. It's very Japanese. It probably. I mean, and I'm assuming. Did we all play with the Japanese voiceover?
Yeah. I mean, I
No, I
did
did
both.
not. I played with English.
You played in English, you
Yeah.
filthy, filthy American. How dare you?
I did not want to have to read the dialogue.
How was the English video, out of curiosity?
Not good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really why I played it in Japanese. It's the same reason why like I won't play a Yakuza game in English, even though they started
Yeah.
having an English dub. It's like it takes place in Japan. I'm playing it in
Yeah,
Japanese.
Yakuza for me is a little different just because even with the Japanese voices that I can't understand, the theatricality and the performances, the delivery, and mixed with um the expressions of the characters, the animation, like
Hmm.
I can infer what like a character's getting at, even if I don't know exactly what they're saying here. It's much more flat, straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, box puzzle was your least favorite, Jason. Do you have a
Probably my
favorite?
favorite then would be the everybody's favorite is the code that you decipher in the school again in the school.
The
Oh
The
yeah, that
lockers,
was
numbers,
the
really
lockers.
cool.
yeah, yeah. The numbers that you figure out the code from the letters, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one too. Hmm.
I Yeah, the box puzzle is definitely my least favorite. I might go with the locker puzzle. Or,
Yeah, because
like
you get some like environmental storytelling with the characters in the school.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
the
like that's
school overall
even
is easily the best area in the game.
yeah.
Yeah.
I can definitely agree. Okay. I mean, is there anything else you guys want to kind of touch on and talk about with this game before we move
I
on
did
to the
want to
final question?
touch on the music real quick. I know I mentioned that I really like it.
Yeah.
But it's not all of it that I like, and I actually hadn't realized there were two different composers. So I
There were
wonder if
actually also, sorry, there were also additional composers that have previously worked with Ryukishio 7 on like Higurashi When They Cry and stuff like that. I just don't think they were like primary composers. So there's like even more than just the two that I called out. I just
gotcha.
want to bring that up.
So I think this game, the part of the soundtrack that I didn't like is when it overused that basically the song that was in the trailer, that very like I I don't know what the instrument is. I'm so sorry. It's kind of like the running sound that plays throughout the game. So do you remember the first trailer music?
No, I don't.
No.
I don't remember.
Damn.
I don't know if I ever even watched a trailer for this game. to be
Oh,
honest.
okay. I see. Yeah, it was a very disturbing trailer because it had like holes all over the character, kind of like how you
Oh,
see Sakugo die.
so it was
Um,
like triggering like trypophobia in a lot of
yes,
people.
which I kind of have. Um,
Oh,
yeah. Thankfully they didn't use it as much in the game as I thought they would, so I was very
mm.
grateful for that. But and thankfully I didn't die enough to see it on Hinako. But yeah, it's sort of like the music that was more blaring that I didn't like. And they played it a lot in like the scenes where she was transitioning into the fox. Um, so yeah, I don't know what the instrument is, but that really disturbed me and annoyed me. However, there was the soundtrack in the estate in their home was fire. Like some of these like some of it felt very Silent Hill. Um, and some of it had like this sort of like 80s synthwave kind of vibe going to it, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know like the breakdown of which ones were Akira Yamaoka and which ones were Kensuke Inage. I think Kensuke Inage was primarily responsible for the more like traditional Japanese music, whereas Akira Yamaoka was doing his usual like um I guess more industrial sounds, more like modern kind of rock on top of
That would
whatever
make sense because
weird
that's
like
very
soundscapes he can
different.
create.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I could be mistaken. You know, maybe things were swapped considerably, and Yamaoka was doing some wacko stuff. I don't know.
Yeah. So I liked half of this soundtrack a lot, and the other half of it not so much.
Yeah, and you know, kind of a bummer that it seems like there was supposed to be a soundtrack release and it got canceled, and I don't know that we know why.
Mm.
As of this moment in time, it seemed pretty abrupt that the soundtrack release would be canceled, and I'm guessing like maybe one of the more folky songs had some got caught up in some copyright thing and
Oh.
wasn't approved for a physical release or even a digital release. So I don't know what the status of that is, but kind of a shame because the soundtrack is good.
Yeah. I also feel like the character designs were very plain, but I don't know if that has to do with, as Kojima would say, Japanese people having perfect skin and thus making it hard to add like details to the characters, but they just look very plain and pasted, in my opinion.
I do feel like there should have been some on the school uniform. I understand thematically like what you're trying to do with it, but if you're gonna have them all wearing the school uniforms and looking similar with their hair, um, some slight design differentiation. Because as you know, even in this conversation, I kept confusing which one's Sakuko, which one's Rinko. Like they
I
kind of
mean,
just. I
it's
mean, I understood I understood who the characters were. Like
yeah.
the actual like backgrounds and characterization. It's
Yeah.
just the actual characters on screen. Like they're all wearing the same uniform, and I understand. Yes, thematically it makes sense, but like for practical reasons, as an artist, you generally want to have some kind of differentiation so that the audience has an idea of the outline of the character design in their head.
I mean, Hinako does start having some wardrobe changes and
Yes,
or
she
maybe
does.
if you want to call them wardrobe malfunctions, I don't know. Loses a sleeve, loses like half the back of her shirt, and her skirt becomes very like messed up and ruffled by the end.
Hmm.
I know it's not really what you're looking for, Jason. I'm mostly being facetious.
I know it's not even like that big of a deal. It's just I only pointed out because earlier like I was like which one's Sakugo, which one's Renko, and she brings up like the uniforms and the kind of the look of the characters. It's kind of plain.
Yeah.
Just even some little detail like a fucking bracelet that one wears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But that's a very of all of the things that's the most nitpicky I can be.
Yeah. There were much more things to complain about.
I guess one thing because we didn't talk about this yet about like the Silent Hill of it all, or not even the Silent Hill of it all, the name of the game. they left this they left this intentionally unanswered and haven't given any sort of concrete confirmation because they don't want to. What's the F?
Fuck
Failure.
this.
Jesus Christ. What did you say, Delilah?
Fuck this.
All right, both of
Sorry.
you. Jesus Christ.
I don't know. Fox.
Yeah.
Fog. Um,
Does it really
Maybe.
matter? We know, like, it's there purely to try to conjure up some interest. Like at the
I
end of
mean,
at the end of the day, like we've already said, it's a Silent Hill game for marketing purposes only.
yeah, I know. It's just it was one of the pieces of intrigue going into this game of like, why is it called Silent Hill F? What's the F? And I like reading, like I looked it up and saw some Reddit discussions, like of what people think that it might be. The most obvious one is that because the last numbered Silent Hill game was 4, like could the F mean just simply be 5, the fifth mainline Silent Hill game. Um there's also lots of flowers and flower motifs throughout the game. So maybe the F is flower, maybe the F is fox because the foxes are the fox spirit is so prevalent and kind of an antagonist of this game. Um, yeah, I feel like it's anybody's guess, it's anybody's interpretation. I just wanted to know what you guys thought, and I should have known that you guys were going to say just like the most sarcastic shit.
yeah. I think I saw somewhere, I can't remember where, but there was a special notice of the fact that the F is lowercase and not uppercase, and that had some kind of significance, but I don't remember what the significance was.
I mean, realistically, like the F kind of looks like in musical terms, it kind of looks like a forte,
Mm.
and I don't think that has anything to do with
Yeah,
the
no, I
game.
know what you're talking about, and I don't think, yeah.
Yeah, so to kibosh that one,
Yeah.
I don't think that really has any connection. Yeah, I don't know. I think they left it open because they wanted to have multiple meanings. And they also wanted to just be whatever the player wants it to mean. I don't personally like the idea of it being Silent Hill 5 because we'll get into that with the final question, but
Hmm.
um yeah, I mean, are you guys ready for the final question? You ready to get on the
You,
road to wrapping this
yeah,
bad
but do
boy?
you have a F theory?
No, I mean, I think it's just like whatever you want it to be. Silent Hill,
Yeah.
forget
Failure.
about it. That's what I think.
Forget
I
about
I
That's
it.
what I think it needs
wouldn't
to
I would
be.
not be surprised if we've given it more thought than the devs did.
Oh, I don't know
I'm
about
being
that, but
completely serious, yeah.
yeah.
Fungus.
Could be, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So the final question, because I guess this is just the reality we live in, right? Like this game was made to more, to kind of broaden the Silent Hill spectrum and explore more Japanese horror than Western horror and Western horror influences. I mean, is there any other kind of types of horror, not even necessarily locked to a location, but just like types of horror um that you would want Silent Hill to explore and kind of convey in a future game?
You mean like horror genre? Like
Yeah, like
the way this.
I guess horror genre. I guess it would have to be psychological in some regard, right? But like Delilah, you brought up like there's some serious body horror in this game, and I feel like it wasn't like too much, but like, do you want a game where they lean more into that kind of thing, or
Um,
something else?
yeah, I mean, I like that they leaned into the Japanese horror a lot, and I wouldn't mind seeing more of this. I just don't. I think Konami could make a horror game without it being called Silent Hill that leans into that. Um, I do think that I personally really like occult horror, like The Conjuring. Well, the first Conjuring specifically.
The only
Um,
good one.
the only good one, exactly. Well, two is okay, but yeah, um, that kind of stuff. I feel like I would like, wouldn't mind seeing them go into. Uh, that's really it. I can't think of any other types of horror that I would like to see. Body horror, I don't really care for it. Like I said.
Yeah, you're a huge fan. You're secretly like the biggest body horror fan.
I mean,
Um,
I'm not an expert on the series, but it seems like Silent Hill has a pretty cool, interesting, well-established identity. And I don't know. It might be just my humble opinion, but maybe just make Silent Hill games. um,
well, I mean, and I guess here's my most nuanced take. Probably not very nuanced at all. It's probably gonna make some people mad because everyone's celebrating this like return of Silent Hill. We got this excellent Silent Hill 2 remake last year. We have Silent Hill F, the first new entry in the franchise since what, Book of Memories on the Vita in like 2012. So like people are really celebrating this return to this franchise. And I'm just like, why?
there's a lot of fart huffing going on out there. Yeah,
There was just well, it's like silent the way I kind of put this to some friends of mine and us talking is like Silent Hill 1 through 3, some people would make an argument for 4, others wouldn't, but at least Silent Hill 1 through 3, there's original games which came out between 1999 and I think 2004 was when 3 came out. They were like lightning in a bottle. They came out at a time where they were innovative and were doing things that horror games of the time were not doing, and they were doing them extremely well.
and most horror
And
games still don't do.
I
Yeah.
mean, well, the thing is that they try to do, and like a lot of modern horror games have taken inspiration from Silent Hill, and you could even make the argument Resident Evil has started taking inspiration from Silent Hill, not recently, but like when Resident Evil
Yeah,
hit its like big resurgence with 7, like
yeah.
there's definitely an argument to be made that they took a lot of inspiration from Silent Hill, which was eating their lunch when Silent Hill was at its peak in the late 90s, early 2000s. Um so like with that being said, after that, it was all downhill, right? Like there's a reason that
All down the Silent Hill.
all down Silent Hill, yeah. Um I wasn't even trying for that. Um there were just repeated spin-off games made by Western developers that nobody liked and are still reviled. And like when you try to bring this franchise back after so long, and like even now, like people are celebrating a return, but there's so much division in terms of the reception of this game, and a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people are trying to find excuses and ways to make it make sense as a Silent Hill game. And I'm just like, I think it was really just, I think it was really hasty, really just, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? I feel like my at this point in the episode, my brain is fried and I can't think of words that I'm trying to find. Um,
Yeah,
it was just
hasty is the, I think
it
I
was very hasty to celebrate the return of this franchise.
yeah, and again, I'm not an expert on the franchise. I've only played those first two games. Well, and a remake of the second one, and I haven't even played the original. However, the impression I get from what I've experienced of this franchise so far is that like trying to continue making this, because each game seems to very much stand, from what I've played, stand on its own. And there might be some like continuing through lines, but not in the same way that like Resident Evil has like there is an overarching plot through those games. That
Silent Hill
it's
is
somewhat
more overarching
serialized.
lore.
Yeah. But what I guess what I was trying to say is like, and maybe it's just because I was recently for Halloween watching. I didn't watch it when it came out. Nosferatu, Robert Eggers' take on it. It sometimes feels like trying to bring back the franchise of Silent Hill, or even make Silent Hill into a franchise in the first place. Is like It's like trying to make a franchise out of like a Robert Eggers movie, like The Lighthouse or something. Like that's not the kind
Could
of
you,
thing it is.
could you imagine a franchise around the lighthouse? Oh my god.
Or any you could choose any Robert Eggers movie.
You
You
don't
understand what
like
I'm saying? Like
McCookin?
you understand what I'm saying is like
I know what
you're
you're
taking
saying.
like a singular piece of art that's meant to stand on its own and trying to like shit out copies of it that are of equal quality and will maintain the interest. I don't even understand as a Silent Hill fan why you would want that.
Well, and that's where I'm at, right? Like I don't and it's funny, the other franchise that I feel this way about is also another Konami franchise, Metal Gear.
Mm.
I
Yeah, right.
don't think these two franchises need to continue. I think they need to be, as I said extensively in our Silent Hill 2 episode, and I will say it again, I think they need to be preserved. And think they need to be preserved better, especially Silent Hill, because there's no legal way to purchase the original Silent Hill 2 right now. And that's a problem because that game really is special. And so are Silent Hill 1 and 3. And you can legally buy one on PSN, like via your Vita or your PS3, but like how long's that gonna last? Um and you can't legally buy 2 or 3 outside of getting that horrendous HD collection that hardly even counts as playing the original iterations. So, like, I think this franchise needs to be preserved, but I don't think it needs to continue. I don't think following 3 or even potentially 4 it was ever truly good. And I this game, there's things I liked about it, but I don't know, to me it's not really a Silent Hill game. It is a very, very poignant and many times effective psychological horror game. But it finding ways to excuse it as a Silent Hill just sounds desperate, and I don't think we need to be desperate to continue a franchise that was at its peak all over 2 decades ago.
You're just like sullying the franchise, and a lot of franchises do this. A lot of movie franchises, a lot of video
Yes.
game. The combination of the two, they feel the need to milk a title that's successful, and it just winds up becoming more shit. And then you wind up getting to a point where it's just like, just play these 3 games, just watch the first 2 movies, and you'll be fine. You don't need to see anything else, and that kind of sucks, because it
Mhm.
could have just been a different titled movie
Exactly.
or game.
That's
Um,
exactly what I was trying to get at, and we have kept saying it throughout this entire discussion that it's Silent Hill for marketing, and it's sad because it's corporatization of something that maybe if it, I don't know, I don't think giving it its own title would have made the game better, but
But
I
at
would have had
right.
least
more respect for it.
it would have, like, I don't know, it would have been something. I mean, because this is the other problem, is just like how many new things do we truly get? And like
Yeah.
this year of all years has proven that new IP can work,
Oh yeah.
I
right?
almost think it would have been cooler if they called it Silent Ebisugaoka, and then people started to make these connections, like, oh, is it related to Silent Hill? You know?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's the kind of a tangential anecdote, but like, there was that whole thing where that new game coming from Capcom, Pragmata, people were speculating that it was secretly a new Mega Man
Mega
game,
Man game,
and
yeah,
like
I love that.
they had to come out and be like, no, guys, this isn't a Mega Man game. This is like its own thing, but it's like that's almost more interesting, right? Because they
Yeah,
haven't done anything with Mega
Yeah.
Man in
Yeah.
several years, and this comes out and people start making these connections and they're like, wait a second, what if it's a Mega Man game? It's like, what if this game is actually a Silent Hill game?
Why?
yeah.
Why are we still living?
In my restless dreams I see that franchise. um I just, yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, because the fact of the matter is it is a Silent Hill game. They put that name on there. I can't say that
It's
it's
done.
to me, it shouldn't be. It
Yeah,
shouldn't be one, and that's not a knock at the game, that's just I don't it's not that I think that something else should be called Silent Hill, it's that I don't think Silent Hill should be continued. I
right.
think that that franchise can just be left alone and preserved. And if they want to keep putting out merch, you know, if I'll probably keep buying it. You know, I was really they put out a neon sign for the Heaven's Light like
Oh, dope.
bar. I would buy that. I can't afford it right now, but I wanted to get it.
Cool.
You know, if they keep putting out cool merch like that, they're gonna get nostalgic suckers like me or fans like me that like fall for that kind of crap and support it that way. But like,
Yeah.
as far as a new game that doesn't really capture, it doesn't surpass, doesn't innovate, doesn't do anything that usurps those older games that came out over 2 decades ago, then like, what are we doing? We're just putting out products for product's sake.
Right. As I said, it's like you're in the theater seeing the trailers, and it's Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson are back again for Lighthouse 2, Electric Boogaloo.
See, here's
Like,
the thing, Jason, is I would unironically watch The Lighthouse 2 with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson.
That's funny. To Jason's point before, this is a corporatization of an art house series. Like the Silent Hill, the first three Silent Hill games, at least from what you said, I only played one and two. Those are very art house games. And to corporatize it, I don't even know if that's a word, but I'm gonna use it. It just doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
and it makes sense because Resident Evil very much has comic booky elements and feel to
But they're
it in
two
many ways.
completely
They're
different
two,
things.
yeah, they're two completely different. One, like for Resident Evil, I can understand how you quote unquote franchise that because it is in very many ways like comic booky.
Yeah.
That's not what Silent Hill is. Yeah,
There's only so many ways, and like I understand like why they need to expand beyond the town, right? Like I totally get why they made this decision to set it somewhere else. Like there's only so many different and new and interesting things you can do with a singular location. And they kind of started hitting and by they, it's like not even a singular team, right? Because Team Silent after 4 was dissolved, and when Western developers, per Konami's desires, they started giving it to Western developers. Like they things just started the well started to run dry, and to me that doesn't mean like, okay, we need to set it somewhere else, because that to me just doesn't make sense. Like just fucking do something new and call it something different.
Yeah.
Like, just do that. And, you know, I have a feeling that we're gonna eventually hit this with Metal Gear. I have a feeling we're eventually
I hope
gonna
not.
start getting new Metal Gear Solid games with new adventures of Solid Snake or Big Boss or whomever, completely devoid of Kojima and his input. And like, you know, there's also an interesting connection there because like Kojima was gonna make a new Silent Hill game, and you know, PT might not have been perfect, but it did scare the shit out of everyone when it came out. And like the game probably wasn't going to play like that, but at least that teaser kind of showed that there were some ideas that seemed new, and maybe that could have been something more in line with what we would have wanted and could have been like a meaningful continuation. But that's gone, and
Yeah.
yeah.
here's what we have.
I mean, this really is. We're kind of circling around the same thing, and
Yeah,
it's
we
not even
are.
just a Silent Hill thing. It's really just a meta commentary on gaming industry as a whole, and
Yes.
it's not coincidental that all of the best games that people are putting forward for Game of the Year contender are all either brand new first game of of a IP or like like even Kingdom Come to Deliverance 2, the second Hollow Knight game. Like these are all like relatively new things by and you got passion and artistic vision behind
Well,
them as
I
opposed
mean,
to all the remakes that we get from AAA studios.
but
Yeah.
Jason, like the biggest game of the year contender right now is like what, the 33rd entry in its series. Yeah, so I don't know what you're talking about. There's two like it's being franchised to hell.
Wait, what game is that?
He's
Yeah,
referencing Expedition 33. This is
Oh.
it's funny, Delilah, because you referenced it earlier. He didn't get it, and then he just referenced. Yeah, I haven't mentioned it once. Me of all people who
I
like
know.
things that I've been trying not to refrain from mentioning it in our
yeah.
talks. Yeah,
That's for 2 episodes from now. Don't worry.
There
Okay.
you go.
Are we ready to wrap up?
yeah.
Mhm.
Jason, Kwasnicki score. What we got?
Definitely a sub 5. I'm gonna give it 3 red pills out of 10.
3 red pills out of
Wow.
10. Okay. Okay.
Wow. I think that's the lowest score.
It's so no,
No.
it's not. It's so low that it becomes a blue pill,
I almost
and you wake up in
I almost want to bet
in
that
your bed and believe in whatever you want to believe.
I almost want to bet that Jason's lowest score is Alan Wake 2, and that makes me so angry.
Oh god, Alan Wake 2 is god tier compared to this.
That episode still just
I will
lives rent
actually
free
I
in my
will
mind.
actually concur with you, Delilah.
Oh wow. Nice.
Yeah, you would. Um, all right. Delilah, you doing anything? You anything you want to plug?
I mean, I did an ending reaction to this game and watching all the alternate endings via YouTube. It's pretty critical as this episode was. But I also highlight the good things like I did here as well. And I've been doing ending reactions rather than full playthroughs, except for Claire Obscure Expedition because that game is exquisite. So I wanted every single second captured. But yeah, that's all. That's all I do on YouTube now. I'm thinking of doing some opinion pieces when I get some brain space, hopefully around the holiday. But right now it's just ending reactions to games. So lately I've done Chronos, I did Silent Hill F and Ghost of Yotei, and
Hmm.
yeah, basically that's it. I can't remember what else.
Speaking of, what's our next game, Delilah?
Ghost of Yotei.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, we're doing Ghost of Yotei next. Jason's so
Um,
excited. He's like shaking. He's so excited about it.
I mean,
I'm very worried.
it will certainly be interesting. I've yet to start it, but I mean, go watch our episode in the meantime on Ghost of Tsushima. I
And
sang that
the DLC.
yeah, I sung that game's praises back and forth. My Akira Kurosawa nerdiness shining through the entire episode. So
Anyway, if you liked this episode, thank you so much. You could tell that I'm really running out of steam. We've been going for a long time here.
Yeah,
If you like this episode,
for
thank you.
bedtime.
Yeah, it really is. If you listened on YouTube, awesome. Please like the episode, uh, share the show, leave us a comment, tell us what you didn't like about Silent Hill F or this episode, whatever works for you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. And yeah, like I said, share with your friends, your family, whoever is interested in listening to us talk about this game. Share the episode. If you listen on Apple Podcasts, thank you so much. Please rate and review the show. 5 stars is preferred. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you didn't like. And yeah, we'll see you next time for Ghost of Yotei. And as always, thanks for listening.
Bye.
goodbye, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
It's only a few days after Halloween. Have you guys heard Mariah Carey on the radio yet?
Nope.
Because it's not Christmas until you hear Mariah Carey.
That's
Yo,
true.
man, all the younger people listening don't even know who the fuck Mariah Carey
Are you,
is.
no, that's not true.
It is,
Because
dude. My
that
brother,
song
I got a
has
brother.
broken through the zeitgeist, Jason.
I got a brother that's a decade younger than me, and yo, those kids, they don't know. You'd be surprised how much shit they do not know.
I mean, no, I'm sorry, man.
Dude, I know I'm right there with you. You don't want to believe it at first. It's like the stages of grief. You're just in a state of disbelief, but you got to come to terms with it.